In this video, we're breaking down 2 hours of Naruto lore focused entirely on Dojutsu. Let's begin. First up, we got the Sharingan. The Sharingan is a Kekkei Genkai that appears in the members of the Uchiha clan. The word Sharingan means copy wheel eye in Japanese. It is one of the 3 great Dojutsu, along with the Byakugan and the Rinnegan. The Sharingan is recognized by its red color and the tomoe patterns that appear around the pupil. When a user first awakens the Sharingan, it typically has 1 tomoe in each eye. As the user grows stronger and experiences more, additional tomoe develop until the Sharingan reaches its mature form with 3 tomoe in each eye. The Sharingan does not appear naturally in all Uchiha clan members from birth. It must be awakened through intense emotional experiences, particularly those involving loss or the threat of death. The first time we see a Sharingan awaken in the series is when Sasuke activates his during a life-threatening situation. The age at which an Uchiha awakens their Sharingan varies greatly between individuals. Some awaken it as children, while others may not awaken it until they are older, or may never awaken it at all if they do not experience the necessary emotional trauma. The Sharingan grants its user several distinct abilities. The first and most basic ability is enhanced perception. When the Sharingan is active, the user can see chakra and distinguish between different types of chakra. They can see the chakra pathway system inside a person's body and identify when someone is under the influence of genjutsu. The Sharingan also allows the user to see through certain visual obstructions and track fast-moving objects with greater clarity than the normal eye. The second major ability of the Sharingan is the power to copy techniques. When a Sharingan user observes another ninja performing a jutsu, they can memorize and replicate that technique, assuming they have the necessary chakra nature and physical capability to perform it. This copying ability works for ninjutsu, taijutsu, and to some degree genjutsu. However, the Sharingan cannot copy Kekkei Genkai techniques that require special bloodline abilities the user does not possess. For example, a Sharingan user could not copy wood release techniques because those require the combination of earth and water nature transformations in a way that only those with that specific Kekkei Genkai can achieve. Kakashi Hatake became famous throughout the ninja world as the copy ninja because of his transplanted Sharingan eye. He copied over 1,000 techniques using the Sharingan over the course of his career. When Kakashi meets Zabuza Momochi during the mission to the Land of Waves, Zabuza recognizes Kakashi specifically because of his reputation for copying techniques with his Sharingan. Despite not being born an Uchiha, Kakashi demonstrates that the Sharingan's copying ability can be used effectively by someone outside the clan, though it comes with greater chakra drain for non-Uchiha users. The third major ability of the Sharingan is genjutsu capability. The Sharingan makes it much easier for the user to cast genjutsu and makes their genjutsu more powerful and harder to break. A Sharingan user can cast genjutsu simply by making eye contact with their target. They can also layer multiple genjutsu on top of each other or cast genjutsu that affect multiple people simultaneously. The most basic Sharingan genjutsu can put an opponent to sleep or paralyze them. More advanced users can create complex illusions that manipulate the target's perception of time, space, and reality. The fourth ability of the Sharingan is predictive capability. By reading the subtle muscle movements and chakra flow of an opponent, a Sharingan user can predict what their opponent will do next. This makes it appear as though the Sharingan user can see the future, but they are actually just reading their opponent's body so precisely that they know what action is coming before it fully executes. This predictive ability is especially useful in taijutsu combat, where split-second reactions determine the outcome of exchanges. However, this prediction ability has limits. If an opponent moves faster than the Sharingan user can physically react, knowing what is coming does not help them avoid it. Rock Lee demonstrates this against Sasuke when his speed becomes too great for Sasuke to counter, even though Sasuke's Sharingan can see what Lee is doing. The Sharingan evolves through different stages. The initial awakening typically produces 1 tomoe in each eye. With training and experience, a second tomoe develops, then eventually a third. Each additional tomoe increases the power and precision of the Sharingan's abilities. A 3 tomoe Sharingan represents the standard mature form of the Dojutsu. However, there is a form beyond the 3 tomoe Sharingan called the Mangekyo Sharingan. The Mangekyo Sharingan is an advanced form that awakens under even more extreme emotional circumstances than the basic Sharingan. Traditionally, the Mangekyo Sharingan awakened when an Uchiha killed someone very close to them, usually a best friend or family member. The trauma of taking the life of someone they cared deeply about would trigger the evolution from the 3 Tomoe Sharingan to the Mangekyo Sharingan. However, the series later reveals that the Mangekyo Sharingan can awaken from the intense emotional pain of losing someone close even without directly causing their death. The key factor is the depth of the emotional trauma experienced, not necessarily the act of killing. Each Mangekyo Sharingan has a unique pattern that differs from user to user. Where the basic Sharingan has 3 Tomoe in a standard arrangement, the Mangekyo Sharingan has a completely unique design for each person who awakens it. Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan looks like a pinwheel with 3 blades. Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan looks like a 6-pointed star. Madara's Mangekyo Sharingan has a pattern that resembles 3 circles connected by lines. Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan has 3 triangular shapes that curve around the center. These unique patterns are consistent for each individual and do not change. The Mangekyo Sharingan grants access to powerful techniques that the basic Sharingan cannot perform. Each Mangekyo Sharingan comes with its own unique jutsu that only that specific user can perform. These techniques are among the most powerful abilities in the entire series. Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan grants him Tsukuyomi in his left eye and Amaterasu in his right eye. Tsukuyomi is a genjutsu so powerful that it can torture someone for what feels like days in the span of a single second in the real world. Amaterasu creates black flames that burn hotter than normal fire and cannot be extinguished by normal means. The flames will continue burning until they completely consume whatever they are burning. Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan also grants him Amaterasu, which he manifests in his left eye. His right eye gains the ability to shape and control the Amaterasu flames, which he calls Blaze Release. This gives Sasuke more versatility with the black flames than Itachi had. Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan grants him Kamui, a space-time ninjutsu that allows him to teleport himself or other objects to a different dimension. Kakashi's transplanted Sharingan also develops Kamui after Obito awakens his Mangekyo Sharingan, because both eyes are connected as they came from the same person. Kakashi's version of Kamui works slightly differently from Obito's because Kakashi has Obito's left eye while Obito kept his right eye. Shisui Uchiha possessed a Mangekyo Sharingan that granted him Kotoa Matsukami, considered one of the most powerful genjutsu in existence. Kotoa Matsukami allows the user to enter someone's mind and manipulate them without the target even realizing they are being controlled. The target believes they are acting of their own free will while actually following commands implanted by Kotoa Matsukami. This genjutsu is so powerful that it can only be used once every several years under normal circumstances because of the massive chakra requirement. All Mangekyo Sharingan users can also use Susanoo, a technique that creates a massive humanoid avatar made of chakra around the user. Susanoo acts as both offense and defense, protecting the user while also giving them a powerful weapon to attack with. Susanoo develops in stages, starting as a skeletal structure and eventually forming into a complete armored warrior. The color and appearance of Susanoo differs for each user. Itachi's Susanoo is red and orange. Sasuke's Susanoo is purple. Madara's Susanoo is blue. The fully developed Susanoo is enormous, comparable in size to the tailed beasts. Using the Mangekyo Sharingan comes with a severe drawback. Each time the user activates their Mangekyo Sharingan or uses one of its special techniques, it causes permanent damage to their eyesight. The more they use the Mangekyo Sharingan, the more their vision deteriorates. Eventually, continued use of the Mangekyo Sharingan leads to complete blindness. This progressive blindness cannot be healed by normal medical ninjutsu. Itachi goes nearly blind from his extensive use of the Mangekyo Sharingan over many years. By the time of his final battle with Sasuke, Itachi can barely see and must rely on his other senses and his experience to fight effectively. There is one way to stop the blindness caused by the Mangekyo Sharingan. If a Mangekyo Sharingan user transplants the Mangekyo Sharingan of a close blood relative into their own eye sockets, the two Mangekyo Sharingan combine to create the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan grants all the same powers as the Mangekyo Sharingan, but without the progressive blindness. The user can activate it as many times as they want without losing their vision. The Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan also provides a significant boost to the power and chakra efficiency of the user's techniques. The pattern of the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan combines elements from both the original user's Mangekyo Sharingan and the transplanted Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke obtains the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan by transplanting Itachi's eyes after Itachi's death. Sasuke's Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan pattern incorporates both his original six-pointed star pattern and elements of Itachi's pinwheel pattern. Madara also obtained the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan by taking his brother Izuna's eyes. Only a very small number of Uchiha in history have awakened the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, because it requires two close blood relatives to both awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, and then one must be willing to give up their eyes to the other. The Sharingan has significant chakra costs, especially for users who are not born Uchiha. Kakashi constantly keeps his Sharingan covered with his headband when not in use, because simply having it active drains his chakra rapidly. During the mission to the Land of Waves, Kakashi exhausts himself after using the Sharingan for an extended period during his fight with Zabuza. He ends up bedridden for several days, recovering from chakra exhaustion. Even years later, when Kakashi is much stronger, prolonged use of the Sharingan still tires him significantly. When Kakashi develops the Mangekyo Sharingan and uses Kamui, the chakra drain is so severe that using it multiple times in a short period puts him at risk of death from chakra exhaustion. Uchiha clan members handle the chakra drain of the Sharingan much better than non-Uchiha because their bodies are naturally adapted to it. Sasuke can keep his Sharingan active for extended periods without the same level of exhaustion that Kakashi experiences. However, even for Uchiha, the Sharingan does consume chakra while active, so they typically deactivate it when not needed in battle. The Mangekyo Sharingan techniques consume far more chakra than the basic Sharingan abilities. Using techniques like Amaterasu or Tsukuyomi takes a significant toll even on powerful Uchiha like Itachi and Sasuke. The Sharingan can be transplanted into non-Uchiha, as demonstrated by Kakashi and Danzo Shimura. When transplanted, the Sharingan functions for the recipient, granting them access to its abilities. However, non-Uchiha recipients cannot deactivate the Sharingan once it is transplanted. The eye remains permanently active in the Sharingan state, which causes constant chakra drain. This is why Kakashi always covers his Sharingan eye with his headband. He cannot turn the Sharingan off, so he covers it to minimize the chakra drain when he does not need to use its abilities. Danzo collected multiple Sharingan eyes from deceased Uchiha and had them implanted in his arm, though he kept them covered until he needed to use them. The Sharingan can also break Genjutsu cast on the user. When caught in a Genjutsu, a Sharingan user can recognize they are under an illusion because they can see the chakra disruption in their own system. They can then disrupt their chakra flow to break free from the Genjutsu. This makes Sharingan users highly resistant to Genjutsu from most sources. However, Genjutsu cast by another Sharingan user, especially one with a more powerful Sharingan, can still affect them. The Mangekyo Sharingan grants access to Genjutsu powerful enough to affect other Sharingan users. Itachi's Tsukuyomi can trap even Kakashi, who has a Sharingan of his own, in a Genjutsu. The Sharingan plays a central role in many of the most important events in the series. The rivalry between Naruto and Sasuke is heavily influenced by Sasuke's Sharingan and his desire to become stronger to avenge his clan. Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan techniques make him one of the most dangerous ninja in the world. Obito's Kamui ability allows him to orchestrate major events while remaining hidden. Madara's Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and his mastery of its abilities make him a legendary figure whose power shapes the entire ninja world. The history of the Sharingan is tied directly to the history of the Uchiha clan and their conflict with the Senju clan. The Uchiha clan descended from Indra Otsutsuki, the son of Hagoromo Otsutsuki, who is known as the Sage of Six Paths. The Sharingan originated from the Rinna Sharingan of Kaguya Otsutsuki, the mother of Hagoromo. Over generations, the Dojutsu evolved and changed as it passed through the descendants of Indra, eventually becoming the Sharingan that the Uchiha clan possesses. The potential to awaken the Rinnegan exists within those who possess both Uchiha and Senju DNA, because combining the chakra of Indra and Asura's descendants can recreate the power of Hagoromo. The Sharingan represents both the greatest strength and the curse of the Uchiha clan. While it grants tremendous power, the emotional trauma required to awaken and evolve the Sharingan has led to generations of pain and conflict within the clan. The pursuit of greater power through the Sharingan has driven Uchiha to commit terrible acts, including killing their loved ones to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan. This cycle of hatred and power-seeking ultimately contributed to the downfall of the Uchiha clan and many of the major conflicts in the series. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have the Rinnegan. The Rinnegan is considered the most powerful of the three great Dojutsu, surpassing both the Sharingan and the Byakugan in terms of raw ability and versatility. The name Rinnegan means Samsara Eye in Japanese, referencing the cycle of reincarnation in Buddhist philosophy. The Rinnegan is characterized by a ripple pattern that spreads across the entire eye, giving it a distinctive appearance that is immediately recognizable. The eye itself typically appears purple or light gray, with multiple concentric circles emanating from the pupil outward to the edge of the iris. The Rinnegan is the rarest of all dojutsu in the ninja world. For most of history, it was considered nothing more than a legend or myth. Many ninja believed the Rinnegan only existed in stories about the Sage of Six Paths, and was not something that could actually appear in modern times. The first confirmed appearance of the Rinnegan in the current era was in Nagato, who displayed the eyes as a young child. Even among the most knowledgeable ninja, very few understood what the Rinnegan truly was, or what it could do when Nagato first appeared with it. Hagoromo Otsutsuki, known as the Sage of Six Paths, was the first person to awaken the Rinnegan through natural means rather than being born with it. Hagoromo was the son of Kaguya Otsutsuki and inherited immense chakra and power from his mother. He awakened the Rinnegan during his lifetime and used its power to bring peace to the world and spread the teachings of Ninshu, which would eventually evolve into modern ninjutsu. Hagoromo used the Rinnegan to defeat the Ten Tails and seal it away, dividing its chakra into the nine-tailed beasts that exist in the present day. His mastery of the Rinnegan and the power it granted him made him a godlike figure in the history of the ninja world. The Rinnegan grants its user the ability to use all 5 basic chakra natures without any training or practice. These 5 natures are fire, wind, lightning, earth, and water. Most ninja can only use 1 or 2 chakra natures naturally, and must train extensively to learn additional natures. The Rinnegan bypasses this limitation entirely, allowing the user to perform techniques from any chakra nature immediately. This versatility in chakra manipulation is one of the fundamental advantages the Rinnegan provides. Combined with the ability to learn and master techniques quickly, a Rinnegan user has access to a far broader arsenal than almost any other ninja. The signature ability of the Rinnegan is the Six Paths technique, also called the Six Paths of Pain. This ability allows the user to access 6 different categories of powers, each with its own distinct capabilities. The user can distribute these 6 powers among multiple bodies, controlling them all simultaneously, or they can use all 6 powers in a single body if they possess enough skill and chakra. Nagato demonstrated the distributed version of this technique by controlling 6 corpses, each imbued with one of the 6 paths. Later, Obito and Madara demonstrated that a single person with sufficient power could access all 6 paths in their own body without needing to split the abilities among multiple vessels. The first of the 6 paths is the Deva path, which grants control over attractive and repulsive forces. The Deva path can push objects and people away with immense force or pull them toward the user. This ability works on nearly everything, from small objects to massive structures, and even techniques made of chakra. The most powerful technique of the Deva path is Chibaku Tensei, which creates a massive gravitational sphere that pulls in everything around it, including earth, rocks, and anything else in range. The gravitational pull becomes so intense that it can create a small moon-like satellite floating in the sky. Hagoromo used this technique to create the moon itself when he sealed the Ten Tails away. Nagato used a smaller version of Chibaku Tensei to trap Naruto during their battle. The Deva path can also repel attacks with enormous force, creating a barrier that pushes away anything that comes near. The second path is the Asura path, which allows the user to augment their body with mechanical weaponry and extra limbs. The Asura path can summon additional arms, mechanical tails, blades, missiles, and various other weapons from the user's body. These augmentations appear to be mechanical in nature, but are actually created through chakra manipulation. The weapons generated by the Asura path are extremely powerful and can overwhelm opponents through sheer firepower. During the attack on Konoha, the body imbued with the Asura path displayed these abilities extensively, growing multiple arms and firing missiles at its opponents. The third path is the human path, which grants the ability to read minds and extract souls. By placing a hand on someone's head, the human path user can dive into their memories and extract any information they want directly from the person's mind. This makes interrogation and information gathering nearly effortless. The human path can also rip the soul directly out of a person's body, killing them instantly. Once the soul is extracted, the victim dies immediately, with no chance of survival. This ability works through physical contact, so the user must be able to touch their target to use it. The fourth path is the animal path, which provides the ability to summon various creatures without the need for a blood contract. Normal summoning techniques require the user to sign a contract with a specific animal species, and use their own blood to summon those creatures. The animal path bypasses this requirement entirely, allowing the user to summon multiple different types of creatures at will. Nagato used the animal path to summon giant animals, including dogs, birds, crustaceans, and other creatures during battle. These summons share vision with the Rinnegan user, allowing for coordinated attacks and surveillance. The animal path can also reverse summon the user themselves, teleporting them to a different location instantly. The fifth path is the Preta path, which grants the ability to absorb chakra and nullify ninjutsu. When the Preta path user makes physical contact with a chakra-based technique, they can absorb the chakra that comprises it, causing the technique to disappear. This works on nearly all forms of ninjutsu, making the user almost immune to chakra-based attacks. The Preta path can also absorb chakra directly from a person by touching them, draining their chakra reserves and weakening them. This ability makes the Rinnegan user extremely difficult to defeat with conventional ninjutsu. During combat, opponents must rely on taijutsu and physical weapons rather than chakra techniques when facing someone using the Preta path. However, the Preta path has a weakness. If the user attempts to absorb natural energy or senjutsu chakra without knowing how to properly balance it, the natural energy will turn them to stone. The sixth path is the Naraka path, which allows the user to summon the King of Hell, an otherworldly entity that can perform interrogation and restoration. The King of Hell appears as a massive head with a gaping mouth emerging from the ground. When the Naraka path user questions someone while they are held by the King of Hell, the entity can determine whether they are lying. If the person lies, the King of Hell removes their tongue and kills them. The King of Hell can also restore damaged or destroyed bodies, even bringing back the dead bodies that Nagato uses for his 6 Paths of Pain technique. This restoration ability allows a Rinnegan user to repair severe injuries and even regenerate entire bodies that have been completely destroyed. Beyond the 6 Paths technique, the Rinnegan grants additional abilities. One of the most important is the ability to see chakra in greater detail than even the Sharingan. A Rinnegan user can see the chakra pathway system, sense chakra from great distances, and perceive chakra in all its forms. They can also see invisible barriers and detect when they are caught in genjutsu. The Rinnegan's visual perception surpasses normal eyes, and even other dojutsu in terms of what it can detect. The Rinnegan allows the user to summon and control the demonic statue of the Outer Path, also known as the Gedo statue. This statue is actually the empty husk of the Ten Tails, sealed away long ago by Hagoromo. The statue is massive, comparable in size to the tailed beasts themselves. It possesses incredible physical strength and durability. The Gedo statue can fire wooden spikes from its mouth that drain the chakra from anyone they pierce. It can also emit chakra chains that can restrain even tailed beasts. Obito and Madara both use the Gedo statue as part of their plans to revive the Ten Tails. The statue serves as a vessel to hold the chakra of the tailed beasts, and once all 9 tailed beasts are sealed within it, the Ten Tails is reborn. Awakening the Rinnegan naturally is extremely rare and requires very specific conditions. The Rinnegan cannot be awakened through normal training or emotional trauma like the Sharingan. To naturally awaken the Rinnegan, a person must possess the chakra of both Indra and Asura, the 2 sons of Hagoromo. Indra was the ancestor of the Uchiha clan, while Asura was the ancestor of the Senju clan. By combining the chakra of these 2 lineages, the user can recreate a portion of Hagoromo's power and awaken the Rinnegan. This typically requires an Uchiha to obtain Senju DNA or vice versa. Madara Uchiha awakened the Rinnegan late in his life after implanting cells from Hashirama Senju into his body. Hashirama was a reincarnation of Asura, and Madara was a reincarnation of Indra. By combining their chakra, Madara was able to awaken the Rinnegan, though it took decades for the eyes to fully manifest. Madara awakened the Rinnegan shortly before his death, which complicated his plans significantly. He needed someone else to carry out his scheme to revive him later. This is why he transplanted his Rinnegan into a young Nagato, who had the chakra capacity to handle the powerful eyes. Nagato did not awaken the Rinnegan himself. He was implanted with Madara's Rinnegan eyes as a child without his knowledge. The trauma of his parents' death during a war caused the dormant Rinnegan to activate, making Nagato believe he had awakened the eyes himself. In reality, he was simply the vessel for Madara's eyes. Nagato possessed the right lineage and chakra reserves to use the Rinnegan, being a distant descendant of the Uzumaki clan, who were related to the Senju. This gave him enough vitality to survive having the Rinnegan implanted and to use its powers, though the constant use of the Rinnegan drained him significantly over time. The chakra cost of using the Rinnegan is enormous. Nagato became extremely thin and frail from the constant drain of maintaining and using the Rinnegan's abilities. He relied on a mechanical walker to move around, and spent most of his time seated and stationary. Controlling 6 bodies simultaneously through the 6 paths of pain technique, maintaining their chakra receivers, and using the various path abilities required a constant output of chakra that weakened Nagato's body over many years. By the time of his battle with Naruto, Nagato was physically emaciated despite still possessing enormous chakra reserves. After Nagato's death, Obito took one of Nagato's Rinnegan for himself, implanting it in his left eye socket to replace the Sharingan he had there. This gave Obito access to the Rinnegan's abilities, though he typically kept it hidden beneath his mask. Obito primarily used the Rinnegan's ability to control the Gedo statue and the 6 paths technique, in combination with his Kamui ability from his remaining Sharingan. Later, when Madara was revived through the reanimation jutsu and then restored to life, he reclaimed his Rinnegan eyes. With both of his original Rinnegan returned to him, Madara became extraordinarily powerful, demonstrating the full capability of the Rinnegan in the hands of its original owner. Sasuke awakened a Rinnegan in his left eye after receiving chakra directly from Hagoromo himself. Sasuke's Rinnegan is unique in that it contains 6 Tomoe in addition to the standard ripple pattern. This Rinnegan grants Sasuke access to standard Rinnegan abilities, but also allows him to maintain his Sharingan abilities simultaneously. Sasuke's Rinnegan grants him a unique space-time technique that allows him to switch places with objects or people within a certain range, and it also allows him to open portals to different dimensions. His Rinnegan can perceive targets across dimensions and detect the flow of chakra with incredible precision. However, when Sasuke overuses his Rinnegan's power, the 6 Tomoe temporarily disappear, indicating that the eye needs time to recharge before he can use its full abilities again. The Otsutsuki clan, the original wielders of powerful Dojutsu, possess Rinnegan as well. Momoshiki Otsutsuki has Rinnegan in both of his eye sockets and additional Rinnegan in the palms of his hands. His Rinnegan grant him the ability to absorb any ninjutsu and then release those absorbed techniques back at his opponents with even greater power. Urashiki Otsutsuki possesses a blue Rinnegan with a different pattern than the standard version. These Otsutsuki Rinnegan demonstrate that the Dojutsu exists in different forms and can manifest with variations depending on the user. The Rinnegan can be deactivated and reactivated at will by those who naturally possess it. Madara could switch between his Rinnegan and his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, depending on what abilities he needed to use. However, those who have the Rinnegan transplanted into them cannot deactivate it. Nagato's Rinnegan remained permanently active, contributing to the constant chakra drain he experienced. The inability to turn off transplanted Rinnegan is similar to how Kakashi could not deactivate his transplanted Sharingan. One of the most significant abilities tied to the Rinnegan is the Outer Path technique that allows the user to revive the dead. The Outer Path can restore life to deceased individuals by channeling the user's own life force into the revival technique. Nagato used this ability to revive everyone who died during his attack on Konoha. The technique brought back hundreds of people from death, but using it cost Nagato his own life. The amount of life force required scales with how many people are being revived and how long they have been dead. This technique represents one of the ultimate powers of the Rinnegan, the ability to literally defy death itself and bring souls back from the afterlife. The Rinnegan also plays a role in the infinite Tsukuyomi, the ultimate genjutsu that was central to Madara and Obito's plan. While the technique itself is cast through a different dojutsu, the Rinnegan is necessary to control the Ten Tails and execute the plan to cast the infinite Tsukuyomi on the entire world. The Rinnegan's ability to summon and control the Gedo statue, seal the tailed beasts, and revive the Ten Tails makes it an essential component of this scheme. The power of the Rinnegan comes with significant risks beyond just chakra drain. Those who possess the Rinnegan become targets for others who seek that power. Both of Nagato's eyes were taken after his death, with Obito claiming one and the other, eventually making its way to Kabuto before being returned to Nagato's reanimated body. The eyes can be transplanted and will function for the new user, making them valuable beyond measure. This has led to conflicts over possession of the Rinnegan throughout the story. The Rinnegan represents the pinnacle of dojutsu evolution in the Naruto world. It combines visual prowess with reality-altering abilities that go far beyond what the Sharingan or Byakugan can accomplish. The ability to control gravity, absorb chakra, summon powerful creatures, read minds, extract souls, revive the dead, and master all chakra natures makes the Rinnegan user one of the most formidable forces imaginable. Every character who has possessed the Rinnegan has been positioned as a major threat capable of altering the fate of the entire ninja world. The rarity of the Rinnegan and the extreme difficulty of awakening it naturally ensure that it remains one of the most legendary and feared powers in the series. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Rin Sharingan. The Rin Sharingan is the original dojutsu from which both the Rinnegan and the Sharingan descended. It predates all other eye techniques in the ninja world and represents the purest form of dojutsu power. The Rin Sharingan combines characteristics of both its derivative eyes, featuring the ripple pattern of the Rinnegan with tomoe markings similar to the Sharingan. The appearance is distinctive and unmistakable, with 9 tomoe arranged in 3 sets of 3 across the ripple pattern. The eye is typically red in color, and unlike normal eyes that appear in pairs, the Rin Sharingan manifests as a third eye in the center of the forehead. Kaguya Otsutsuki was the first person to possess the Rin Sharingan. She awakened this eye after consuming the fruit of the God Tree, which granted her immense chakra and power. Before eating the fruit, Kaguya was a normal member of the Otsutsuki clan without any special eye techniques. The God Tree's fruit transformed her, giving her the Rin Sharingan and making her the progenitor of chakra in the ninja world. Kaguya's Rin Sharingan appeared on her forehead as a red eye with 9 tomoe, and she used its power to cast the infinite Tsukuyomi on humanity for the first time in history. This original casting of the infinite Tsukuyomi allowed Kaguya to trap people in the genjutsu and eventually transform them into white zetsu to serve as her army. The Ten Tails also possesses a Rin Sharingan. This is because the Ten Tails is actually a form of the God Tree itself, and Kaguya merged with the God Tree after she was sealed by her sons Hagoromo and Hamura. When the Ten Tails appears, it displays a single, massive eye that is a Rin Sharingan. The eye appears on what could be considered the Ten Tails' forehead area, though the creature's anatomy is alien and difficult to describe in conventional terms. The Ten Tails' Rin Sharingan has the same 9 tomoe pattern as Kaguya's, arranged across the ripple pattern that covers the entire eye. This eye is one of the most immediately recognizable features of the Ten Tails and signals the creature's connection to Kaguya and the original source of chakra. Madara Uchiha is the only other person shown to awaken the Rin Sharingan. He achieved this after becoming the Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails and absorbing the God Tree. The process of becoming the Ten Tails Jinchuriki transformed Madara's body significantly. His skin became pale, he grew horns, and eventually a third eye opened on his forehead. This third eye was the Rin Sharingan, identical in appearance to Kaguya's, with 9 tomoe arranged across the ripple pattern. Madara awakened this eye as part of his plan to cast the infinite Tsukuyomi on the entire world. The awakening occurred after he absorbed the God Tree and approached the moon, which was necessary to reflect the Rin Sharingan's light and cast the genjutsu globally. The primary ability of the Rin Sharingan is to cast the infinite Tsukuyomi. This technique is considered the ultimate genjutsu, capable of affecting every living person on the planet simultaneously. The infinite Tsukuyomi works by reflecting the light of the Rin Sharingan off the moon, and then projecting that light down onto the earth. Anyone who is exposed to the light of the moon while the infinite Tsukuyomi is active becomes trapped in the Genjutsu. The only way to avoid the infinite Tsukuyomi is to be shielded from the moon's light or to possess the Rinnegan, which provides some resistance to the technique. The process of casting the infinite Tsukuyomi requires specific conditions. The caster must possess the Rinne Sharingan and must be in proximity to or have a connection to the moon. Madara positioned himself close to the moon after absorbing the God Tree specifically to cast the technique. Once the Rinne Sharingan's light reflects off the moon, the entire surface of the moon begins to display the pattern of the Rinne Sharingan. This pattern then projects down onto the earth, and the light touches everyone on the planet's surface. The Genjutsu takes effect immediately upon exposure to the light, and those caught in it are rendered unconscious and trapped in an illusion. The infinite Tsukuyomi creates a perfect dream world for each person trapped within it. The Genjutsu reads the desires and wishes of each individual and constructs an illusory reality where those desires are fulfilled. Each person experiences their own personalized dream, living out what they believe to be their ideal life. They have no awareness that they are trapped in a Genjutsu and believe everything they experience is real. The dreams are tailored so perfectly to each individual that they have no reason to question their reality or attempt to break free. This makes the infinite Tsukuyomi nearly impossible to escape from within, as the victims do not even realize they need to escape. When Madara cast the infinite Tsukuyomi, people all over the world stopped what they were doing and stared up at the moon. The pattern of the Rinne Sharingan appeared in their eyes as they fell under the Genjutsu's control. They then collapsed where they stood, unconscious and dreaming. The God Tree extended roots across the entire planet, wrapping around each person trapped in the infinite Tsukuyomi. These roots began to drain the chakra from the victims, slowly absorbing their life force. Over time, the people wrapped in the God Tree's roots would be completely drained and transformed into white Zetsu, just as Kaguya had done in the distant past. This reveals the true purpose of the infinite Tsukuyomi, which is not just to trap people in a pleasant dream, but to harvest their chakra and turn them into an army. The scale of the infinite Tsukuyomi is unprecedented in the series. No other Genjutsu comes close to affecting as many people simultaneously or being as difficult to break. Normal Genjutsu can be broken by disrupting the victim's chakra flow, by experiencing pain, or by having another person disrupt their chakra from outside. The infinite Tsukuyomi cannot be broken through these conventional means. The God Tree's roots physically restrain the victims, and the Genjutsu is so powerful that normal disruption techniques do not work. The only known way to release everyone from the infinite Tsukuyomi is for someone with both the Rinnegan and the power of the nine-tailed beasts to perform a specific release technique. Sasuke and Naruto working together were able to release the infinite Tsukuyomi after the final battle, with Sasuke using his Rinnegan to perform the release. The Rinne Sharingan grants other abilities beyond the infinite Tsukuyomi. Kaguya demonstrated the ability to use various powerful techniques through her Rinne Sharingan and her other two eyes, which were Byakugan. She could create dimensions and travel between them, though it is not entirely clear which of her abilities came specifically from the Rinne Sharingan versus her other powers. The Rinne Sharingan appears to encompass and exceed the abilities of both the Rinnegan and the Sharingan, granting the user access to the full spectrum of Dojutsu powers. However, the specific techniques available to a Rinne Sharingan user are not as thoroughly documented as those of the Rinnegan or Sharingan, primarily because so few characters have possessed this eye. The relationship between the Rinne Sharingan, the Rinnegan, and the Sharingan is one of descent and evolution. The Rinne Sharingan is the original form. Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the son of Kaguya, inherited power from his mother but awakened the Rinnegan rather than the Rinne Sharingan. The Rinnegan can be considered a degraded or evolved form of the Rinne Sharingan that appears in two eyes rather than as a third eye on the forehead. Hagoromo passed his power down through his descendants, which eventually led to the emergence of the Sharingan in the Uchiha clan, the descendants of his son Indra. The Sharingan is a further evolution or degradation of the original Rinne Sharingan, maintaining the Tomoe but losing the ripple pattern and much of the original power. The 9 Tomoe on the Rinne Sharingan may have significance, though this is not explicitly explained in the series. The standard Sharingan develops from 1 Tomoe to 3 Tomoe as the user grows stronger. The Rinne Sharingan has 9 Tomoe, which could represent the ultimate evolution of the Tomoe pattern. Some interpretations suggest the 9 Tomoe correspond to the 9-tailed beasts, as the 10 tails is the combination of all 9 beasts. The number 9 appears repeatedly in connection with the ultimate powers in the series, from the 9-tailed beasts to the 9 Tomoe on the Rin Sharingan. When Madara awakened the Rin Sharingan, his appearance changed to closely resemble Kaguya's. He became pale, grew horns, and displayed the third eye on his forehead. This transformation indicates that awakening the Rin Sharingan brings the user closer to the original source of chakra and the Otsutsuki clan's power. Madara essentially became a pseudo-Otsutsuki through the process of absorbing the 10 tails and the God Tree. The Rin Sharingan was the final stage of this transformation, marking him as having achieved power comparable to Kaguya herself, at least temporarily. The Rin Sharingan's appearance always coincides with immense power and a connection to the God Tree or 10 tails. All 3 known possessors of the Rin Sharingan, Kaguya, the 10 tails, and Madara, were directly connected to the God Tree. Kaguya consumed its fruit, the 10 tails is the God Tree, and Madara absorbed the God Tree after becoming the 10 tails Jinchuriki. This suggests that the Rin Sharingan cannot be awakened through normal means like the Sharingan or even through the difficult process required for the Rinnegan. Instead, it requires a direct connection to the source of all chakra through the God Tree itself. The power level represented by the Rin Sharingan places its users at the absolute pinnacle of the series' power scale. Kaguya was considered the strongest character in the entire series when she appeared, requiring the combined efforts of Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and Obito to seal her away. Madara with the Rin Sharingan was similarly powerful, overwhelming all opposition until Black Zetsu betrayed him. The Rin Sharingan represents power that goes beyond what normal ninja can achieve, entering the realm of godlike abilities that can reshape reality and affect the entire world simultaneously. The limited number of Rin Sharingan users also speaks to how difficult it is to obtain. Only beings with a direct connection to the Otsutsuki bloodline and the God Tree have manifested this eye. Regular Uchiha cannot awaken the Rin Sharingan even if they achieve the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Regular users of the Rinnegan cannot evolve it into the Rin Sharingan through normal training or emotional trauma. The requirements are simply too extreme, involving the absorption of the 10 tails and the God Tree, which are unique entities that cannot be easily replicated or accessed. The color of the Rin Sharingan is consistently shown as red, similar to the Sharingan, but distinct from the purple or gray color of the Rinnegan. This red color may signify its connection to the Sharingan lineage, or it may simply be the natural color of the original Dojutsu before it split into the Rinnegan and Sharingan. The red color is striking and makes the eye immediately identifiable when it appears, especially given its position as a third eye on the forehead rather than in the normal eye sockets. The Tomoe on the Rin Sharingan do not appear to rotate or change like they sometimes do in the Sharingan. They remain fixed in their pattern of 9 Tomoe arranged in 3 sets of 3 around the ripple design. Whether these Tomoe can be gained progressively like the Sharingan's Tomoe, or whether they all appear at once when the Rin Sharingan awakens is not clearly shown. Both Kaguya and Madara displayed the complete 9 Tomoe pattern immediately when their Rin Sharingan was visible, suggesting that the eye manifests in its complete form rather than developing gradually. The strategic implications of the infinite Tsukuyomi make the Rin Sharingan perhaps the most dangerous dojutsu in terms of its potential impact. While the Rinnegan has destructive capabilities, and the Sharingan has powerful techniques, neither can affect every person on the planet simultaneously. The infinite Tsukuyomi can end a war instantly by trapping all combatants in a dream world. It can effectively end free will for the entire human population. This makes the Rin Sharingan not just a tool of personal combat power, but a weapon of mass control that can dominate all of humanity at once. Breaking the infinite Tsukuyomi required very specific conditions. Sasuke needed to have the Rinnegan and needed access to the chakra of all 9-tailed beasts, which Naruto possessed. They also needed to perform a specific hand seal together to release the technique. Without these exact conditions being met, everyone trapped in the infinite Tsukuyomi would have remained in the Genjutsu indefinitely until they were drained of chakra and transformed into White Zetsu. This shows how absolute the power of the Rin Sharingan is when used for the infinite Tsukuyomi. It is not a technique that can be countered through conventional means or even through extreme power. It requires a very specific counter technique that only someone with the Rinnegan and access to the tailed beast's chakra can perform. The God Tree's involvement in the infinite Tsukuyomi process demonstrates the connection between the Rinne Sharingan and the natural energy of the planet. The God Tree extends its roots across the entire world to ensnare those trapped in the Genjutsu. This planetary scale of operation shows that the Rin Sharingan's power is tied to global systems rather than just individual combat. The technique uses the moon as a medium, the entire planet's population as targets, and the God Tree to physically manifest its effects. This scope of operation is unique to the Rinne Sharingan and shows why it is considered the ancestor of all other dojutsu. The appearance of the Rinne Sharingan pattern on the moon during the infinite Tsukuyomi is visible to everyone on the planet. The entire moon's surface displays the 9 tomoe and ripple pattern, turning the moon itself into a giant projection of the Rinne Sharingan. This visual is one of the most striking images in the entire series, showing the scale and power of the technique. The moon remains marked with this pattern until the infinite Tsukuyomi is released, serving as a constant reminder of the genjutsu affecting everyone below. The Rinne Sharingan represents the culmination of dojutsu power in the Naruto universe. It is the original eye from which all other eye techniques descended, and it possesses the most far-reaching and absolute abilities. While the Rinnegan offers versatility and the Sharingan offers perception and copying abilities, the Rinne Sharingan offers the power to control the entire world's population simultaneously through the infinite Tsukuyomi. This makes it not just the most powerful eye technique, but potentially the most powerful ability in the entire series in terms of its scope and impact. The extreme rarity of the Rinne Sharingan and the nearly impossible requirements to awaken it ensure that it remains a legendary power that only appears at the climax of the series' most important conflicts. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Byakugan. The Byakugan is the Dojutsu Kekkei Genkai of the Hyuga clan and is one of the 3 great dojutsu alongside the Sharingan and the Rinnegan. The name Byakugan means white eye in Japanese, which directly describes its appearance. When activated, the Byakugan causes veins to bulge around the user's eyes and temples, and the eyes themselves appear completely white or pale lavender with no visible pupil or iris. This distinctive appearance makes it immediately obvious when a Hyuga clan member has activated their Byakugan. Unlike the Sharingan, which must be awakened through trauma, the Byakugan is present from birth in members of the Hyuga clan, though it must still be activated consciously to use its abilities. The Byakugan originated with the Otsutsuki clan, the same alien clan that brought chakra to the ninja world. Kaguya Otsutsuki possessed the Byakugan before she consumed the fruit of the God Tree and awakened the Rinne Sharingan. Her son Hamura Otsutsuki inherited the Byakugan from his mother, while his brother Hagoromo inherited different eyes that would eventually become the Rinnegan. Hamura's descendants formed the Hyuga clan on Earth, which is why they possess the Byakugan as their bloodline trait. The Otsutsuki clan members who appear in the series, including Momoshiki, Kinshiki, and Toneri, also possess Byakugan, demonstrating that it remains the standard dojutsu of their clan. The primary ability of the Byakugan is its incredible range of vision. A Byakugan user can see extremely far distances, with the exact range varying depending on the user's skill and power. Neji Hyuga could see targets up to 50 meters away when he was a genin. As he grew stronger and more experienced, his range extended to at least 800 meters. Hinata Hyuga demonstrated the ability to see targets 10 kilometers away during the 4th Great Ninja War. The most skilled Byakugan users can see across distances of many kilometers, making them invaluable for reconnaissance and surveillance missions. This long-distance vision allows Byakugan users to spot enemies, track movements, and gather intelligence from a safe distance. The second major characteristic of the Byakugan is its field of vision. The Byakugan grants the user an almost complete spherical field of vision around their body. They can see in all directions simultaneously, including behind them, above them, and below them. This makes it nearly impossible to attack a Byakugan user from a blind spot because they effectively have no blind spots. However, the Byakugan does have one small blind spot located at the back of the neck, just above the first thoracic vertebra. This blind spot is only a few centimeters in diameter, making it extremely difficult to exploit in combat. Neji Hyuga had this weakness, and Kidomaru discovered it during their battle in the Sasuke retrieval arc. Neji later trained to cover this blind spot by quickly rotating his head and body to keep any attacker from taking advantage of it. The third and perhaps most important ability of the Byakugan is its capacity to see the chakra pathway system and tenketsu. The human body contains a network of chakra pathways through which chakra flows, similar to how blood flows through veins and arteries. Along these pathways are 361 tenketsu, which are specific points that regulate chakra flow. The Byakugan allows its user to see both the chakra pathways and all 361 tenketsu with perfect clarity. They can observe how chakra moves through a person's body, identify blockages or disruptions in chakra flow, and see exactly where each tenketsu is located. This ability makes the Byakugan an exceptional tool for medical diagnosis and for analyzing an opponent's chakra system during combat. The ability to see the chakra system led to the development of the gentle fist fighting style, which is the signature taijutsu of the Hyuga clan. Unlike most taijutsu styles that focus on external damage through punches and kicks, the gentle fist focuses on internal damage by directly attacking the chakra pathway system. A gentle fist user channels their own chakra into their strikes and targets specific tenketsu in the opponent's body. By striking these tenketsu, they can forcibly close them, disrupting or completely blocking the flow of chakra in that area. If enough tenketsu are sealed, the opponent becomes unable to mold chakra properly, rendering them unable to use most jutsu. In severe cases, attacking tenketsu can cause internal damage to organs because the chakra pathways run throughout the entire body, including vital organs. The gentle fist style is only fully effective when used in combination with the Byakugan because the user must be able to see exactly where the tenketsu are located. Without the Byakugan, it would be nearly impossible to consistently strike such small, specific points on a moving opponent during combat. This is why the gentle fist and the Byakugan are so closely linked, and why the Hyuga clan's fighting style is built entirely around their dojutsu. The precision required for gentle fist techniques would be impossible to achieve with normal vision. One of the most powerful techniques that utilizes the Byakugan is the 8 trigrams 64 palms. This technique is a hallmark of the Hyuga clan's main house and is considered an advanced gentle fist technique. The user gets close to their opponent and then strikes 64 of their tenketsu in rapid succession, following a pattern based on the 8 trigrams formation. The strikes come in waves, starting with 2 strikes, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32, and finally 64. Each strike seals a tenketsu, and by the end of the technique, the opponent's chakra flow is severely disrupted. They become unable to stand properly and cannot use most jutsu because their chakra system has been compromised so extensively. Neji Hyuga was particularly skilled with this technique and could perform it despite being from the branch house rather than the main house. Neji also developed the 8 trigrams 128 palms, doubling the number of strikes from the traditional 64. This technique is even more devastating and leaves the opponent almost completely unable to function. The speed and precision required to land 128 strikes on specific points across the opponent's body in mere seconds demonstrates both the power of the Byakugan and the skill of its user. These techniques showcase how the Byakugan's ability to see tenketsu translates directly into combat effectiveness. Another technique that relies on the Byakugan is the 8 trigrams palms revolving heaven. This is a defensive technique where the user releases chakra from all 361 tenketsu in their body simultaneously while spinning rapidly. The combination of the chakra emission and the spinning motion creates a dome of chakra around the user that repels attacks. The technique can block physical strikes, weapons, and even some jutsu. The Byakugan is necessary for this technique because the user must be able to see incoming attacks from all directions to know when to activate the defense. The near 360-degree vision of the Byakugan makes it possible to react to attacks coming from any angle. This technique is considered a secret technique of the Hyuga main house, though Neji learned it by observing his father and other main house members. The Byakugan can also see through solid objects. A Byakugan user can see through walls, earth, and most physical barriers. This X-ray-like vision makes it nearly impossible to hide from a Byakugan user because they can see through concealment and detect people hiding behind cover. The only known limitation is that the Byakugan cannot see through certain special barriers or seals designed specifically to block its vision. During reconnaissance missions, this ability allows Byakugan users to scout enemy bases by looking through walls to see how many enemies are present, where they are positioned, and what they are doing without having to physically enter the building. The Byakugan can detect when someone is under the influence of genjutsu by observing disruptions in their chakra flow. When a person is caught in a genjutsu, their chakra behaves abnormally, and a Byakugan user can see this irregularity. This makes Byakugan users valuable for identifying when allies have been trapped in illusions. However, unlike the Sharingan, which can cast powerful genjutsu, the Byakugan does not grant any particular ability to create or dispel genjutsu. It can only detect that a genjutsu is active by observing its effects on chakra flow. The Byakugan allows its user to see different types of chakra and distinguish between them. This includes seeing the difference between normal chakra and nature energy, or identifying when someone has a tailed beast's chakra. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, Hinata used her Byakugan to help locate Naruto by searching for his distinctive chakra signature across the battlefield. The ability to identify specific individuals by their chakra signature makes the Byakugan useful for tracking and search operations. The Hyuga clan is divided into two parts, the main house and the branch house. The main house consists of the direct line of succession, while the branch house consists of all other members of the clan. This division exists to protect the Byakugan from falling into enemy hands. Members of the branch house are marked with a cursed seal on their forehead when they reach a certain age. This seal serves two purposes. First, it seals away their Byakugan upon their death, destroying the eyes so they cannot be taken and studied by enemies. Second, it allows members of the main house to cause intense pain or even death to branch house members by activating the seal. This system ensures that the secrets of the Byakugan remain within the Hyuga clan and gives the main house absolute authority over the branch house. Neji Hyuga was born into the branch house and bore the cursed seal on his forehead. He resented this system because it branded him as inferior and subservient to the main house, despite his exceptional talent. His father, Hisashi, was forced to die in place of his twin brother, Hiashi, to protect the Byakugan from falling into the hands of the Hidden Cloud Village. This sacrifice embittered Neji and shaped his worldview until Naruto defeated him in the Chunin exams and changed his perspective. The existence of the cursed seal and the division between main and branch house demonstrates how seriously the Hyuga clan takes protecting their dojutsu. Hinata Hyuga is a member of the main house and the daughter of Hayashi Hyuga, the clan head. Despite her position, she was initially considered unsuitable as heir because of her gentle personality and perceived lack of strength. Her younger sister Hanabi was favored over her as the future clan head. However, Hinata grew significantly stronger throughout the series and proved her worth as both a ninja and a Byakugan user. By the time of the Fourth Great Ninja War, Hinata had developed her Byakugan to the point where she could see across 10 kilometers and could perform advanced gentle fist techniques. Her character arc demonstrates that skill with the Byakugan depends not just on bloodline but also on training and determination. The Byakugan possessed by the Otsutsuki clan appears to function the same way as the Hyuga clan's Byakugan, granting the same range of vision and ability to see chakra. However, members of the Otsutsuki clan often possess Byakugan, in addition to other powerful abilities related to their alien nature. Kaguya Otsutsuki had Byakugan before awakening her Rinna Sharingan, and she retained her Byakugan even after gaining the more powerful Dojutsu. This suggests that the Byakugan remains useful even for someone with godlike power, likely because of its unique sensory capabilities. Tonari Otsutsuki is a descendant of Hamura Otsutsuki, who lives on the moon. He was born without Byakugan, which is unusual for someone of Otsutsuki heritage. To correct this, he took Byakugan from Hanabi Hyuga, Hinata's younger sister, and transplanted them into his own eye sockets. This gave him access to the Byakugan's abilities, and also allowed him to awaken a more powerful form called the Tensegan. The Tensegan is an evolution of the Byakugan that requires both Otsutsuki chakra and Hyuga Byakugan to manifest. The Tensegan grants abilities that go far beyond the standard Byakugan, including the power to control gravity and puppets made of chakra. However, the Tensegan is not a natural evolution of the Byakugan and requires very specific circumstances to awaken, making it extremely rare even by the standards of Dojutsu. The Byakugan can be transplanted into non-Hyuga individuals, similar to how the Sharingan can be transplanted. However, this is extremely rare because the Hyuga clan guards their Dojutsu so carefully through the cursed seal system. When a branch house member dies, their cursed seal activates and destroys their Byakugan, preventing anyone from taking the eyes. Main house members are protected by the branch house members, who are obligated to die before allowing a main house member to be killed or captured. This multi-layered protection system has been largely successful, as there are no major examples in the series of enemy ninja successfully obtaining and using stolen Byakugan, unlike the Sharingan, which was stolen and transplanted multiple times. One notable case of Byakugan transplantation occurred with Ao, a ninja from the Hidden Mist village. Ao obtained a Byakugan from a Hyuga clan member he defeated in battle and transplanted it into his own eye socket. He kept the eye covered when not in use to minimize chakra drain, similar to how Kakashi covered his Sharingan. Ao's Byakugan functioned normally despite him not being a Hyuga, allowing him to see through Genjutsu and perceive chakra. This demonstrates that the Byakugan works for non-Hyuga users, though presumably with the same chakra drain issues that affect non-Uchiha users of the Sharingan. The chakra cost of the Byakugan is generally lower than that of the Sharingan or Rinnegan. Hyuga clan members can keep their Byakugan active for extended periods without significant exhaustion. This efficiency makes the Byakugan practical for long-duration missions that require constant surveillance or tracking. During the Fourth Great Ninja War, Byakugan users maintained their Dojutsu active for hours at a time while searching for enemies and monitoring the battlefield. The relatively low chakra cost is one of the Byakugan's practical advantages over other Dojutsu. The Byakugan does not have evolutionary stages like the Sharingan. A Hyuga does not develop their Byakugan from one form to another more powerful form through experience or trauma. The Byakugan is essentially the same from the moment it first activates to its fully matured state. What changes is not the Byakugan itself, but the user's skill in utilizing its capabilities. A more experienced Byakugan user will have greater range, better chakra perception, and more precise control over their gentle fist techniques. But the eye itself has not fundamentally changed. This is different from the Sharingan, which evolves through multiple stages, from 1 Tomoe to 3 Tomoe to Mangekyo Sharingan. The combat style enabled by the Byakugan is fundamentally different from the combat style enabled by the Sharingan. The Sharingan excels at perception and copying techniques, making it useful for learning jutsu and predicting movements. The Byakugan excels at close-range combat and chakra disruption, making it useful for disabling opponents and understanding their chakra system. While a Sharingan user might copy an opponent's technique and use it against them, a Byakugan user would instead close in and seal the opponent's tenketsu to prevent them from using techniques at all. These different approaches reflect the different strengths of each dojutsu. In terms of reconnaissance and sensory abilities, the Byakugan is superior to the Sharingan. The Byakugan's range, field of vision, and ability to see through objects make it the better tool for scouting, surveillance, and gathering intelligence. This is why Byakugan users are often assigned to reconnaissance squads, and why the Hyuga clan has historically been valuable to Konoha for their sensory capabilities. During missions where information gathering is the priority, a Byakugan user provides more utility than a Sharingan user. The three great dojutsu each represent different aspects of ocular power. The Sharingan represents perception, copying, and Genjutsu. The Rinnegan represents mastery over life, death, and the fundamental forces of nature. The Byakugan represents complete awareness, chakra vision, and the ability to affect the opponent's chakra system directly. Each dojutsu excels in its particular domain, and comparing them directly is difficult because they serve different purposes. The Sharingan is often considered more versatile in direct combat because of its copying ability and genjutsu, but the Byakugan's sensory capabilities and the gentle fist style make it equally formidable when used correctly. The cultural importance of the Byakugan to the Hyuga clan cannot be overstated. The clan's entire identity, fighting style, and social structure revolve around this dojutsu. The division between main house and branch house exists solely to protect the Byakugan. The gentle fist style was developed specifically to take advantage of the Byakugan's abilities. The clan's reputation and standing in Konoha are built on their possession of this powerful bloodline trait. Without the Byakugan, the Hyuga clan would lose not just their combat effectiveness, but also their cultural identity and their purpose as guardians of this ancient dojutsu. The legacy of the Byakugan extends through multiple generations. Hamura passed it to his descendants, who became the Hyuga clan. Those descendants have protected and utilized the Byakugan for centuries, developing the gentle fist style and creating the cursed seal system to prevent its loss. The Byakugan connects the Hyuga clan directly to the Otsutsuki and to the very origins of chakra in the ninja world. This connection gives the clan a place in the larger narrative about where ninja abilities came from and how they spread throughout humanity. The Byakugan represents both a gift and a burden, granting tremendous power while also requiring constant vigilance to prevent it from being stolen or misused. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have the Tensigen. The Tensigen is an extremely rare dojutsu that appears in the last Naruto, the movie, and represents an evolution of the Byakugan. The name Tensigen means reincarnation eye in Japanese, which reflects its connection to the cycle of rebirth and the relationship between the Otsutsuki clan on the moon and their descendants on Earth. The Tensigen appears as a blue eye with a white floral pattern that resembles a combination of the Byakugan's appearance and something entirely new. The eye glows with a bright blue light and has a distinctive design that makes it immediately recognizable as something different from both the Byakugan and the other known dojutsu. The Tensigen can only be awakened under very specific conditions. It requires the combination of Otsutsuki clan chakra and a Byakugan from the Hyuga clan. An Otsutsuki who obtains a Hyuga Byakugan and transplants it can awaken the Tensigen, but only if they possess the proper Otsutsuki lineage and chakra. This requirement makes the Tensigen incredibly rare because it needs both bloodlines to come together. The Hyuga clan descended from Hamura Otsutsuki, who was the son of Kaguya Otsutsuki and the brother of Hagoromo Otsutsuki. Over many generations, the Hyuga clan's connection to the Otsutsuki became diluted as they mixed with Earth's human population. Meanwhile, the Otsutsuki who remained on the moon maintained their pure Otsutsuki heritage. When these two divergent branches of Hamura's lineage are reunited through transplanting a Hyuga Byakugan into an Otsutsuki, the Tensigen can manifest. Hamura Otsutsuki was the first person to possess the Tensigen. After helping his brother Hagoromo seal away their mother Kaguya, Hamura went to live on the moon to guard the seal and watch over the Gedo statue. On the moon, Hamura awakened the Tensigen at some point during his life. The circumstances of how Hamura first awakened the Tensigen are not fully detailed, but as the progenitor of both the moon Otsutsuki and the earth-based Hyuga clan, he possessed both the necessary bloodline components within himself. Hamura used the Tensigen to fulfill his duty as the guardian of the moon and protector of the seal containing the Gedo statue. His Tensigen represented his authority and power as the ancestor of the Byakugan users. After Hamura's death, his Tensigen remained on the moon. The Otsutsuki clan members, who descended from Hamura and lived on the moon, collected Byakugan from deceased members of their clan over many generations. They gathered these Byakugan together and combined them in a massive structure called the Energy Vessel. This vessel contained countless Byakugan all merged together, and their combined power created what could be called a massive Tensigen. This artificial Tensigen, formed from many Byakugan, was not contained in a person's eyes, but existed as a large glowing sphere of energy. The moon Otsutsuki used this energy vessel and the power it generated to sustain themselves and their civilization on the moon. The energy vessel powered everything in the moon's interior where the Otsutsuki lived and provided them with the energy they needed to survive in that environment. Toneri Otsutsuki is the only other person shown to awaken an individual Tensigen in his own eyes. Toneri was born into the branch family of the moon Otsutsuki clan and was born without eyes at all. His family had a tradition of transplanting Byakugan to maintain their power, but Toneri lacked even the basic Byakugan from birth. As the last surviving member of the Otsutsuki on the moon, Toneri became obsessed with carrying out what he believed was Hamura's final decree to destroy the Earth if humanity misused chakra. To gain the power necessary for this task, Toneri needed to awaken the Tensigen. Toneri obtained Byakugan by taking them from Hanabi Hyuga, the younger sister of Hinata Hyuga. He orchestrated Hanabi's kidnapping specifically to steal her eyes because the Hyuga were direct descendants of Hamura and possessed pure Byakugan. Toneri transplanted Hanabi's Byakugan into his own empty eye sockets. Because Toneri possessed pure Otsutsuki chakra and Hanabi's eyes were pure Hyuga Byakugan, the combination allowed the Tensigen to awaken. The process was not instantaneous. After transplanting the eyes, Toneri had to wait for the Tensigen to fully mature. During this waiting period, the Byakugan gradually transformed into the Tensigen, changing in appearance and power as the evolution completed. The Tensigen grants control over attractive and repulsive forces, similar to the Deva Path ability of the Rinnegan. A Tensigen user can push objects and people away or pull them toward themselves using gravitational manipulation. This ability works on a massive scale, far beyond what most jutsu can achieve. Tonari demonstrated this ability by moving the moon itself, altering its orbit to send it on a collision course with Earth. The amount of force required to move an entire moon is incomprehensible. Yet the Tensigen provided enough power to accomplish this feat. This gravitational manipulation can also be used in combat to control the battlefield, moving opponents around or deflecting attacks by repelling them. The Tensigen allows its user to fly without any external assistance. Tonari could levitate and move through the air freely using the power of his Tensigen. This flight ability appears to be related to the gravitational manipulation powers of the Tensigen, as the user essentially negates gravity's effect on themselves and can move in any direction at will. The flight is smooth and controlled, allowing for precise aerial maneuvering during combat. This ability gives the Tensigen user a significant tactical advantage because they can attack from any angle and are not restricted to ground-based movement. One of the most powerful abilities granted by the Tensigen is the creation and control of truth-seeking orbs. Truth-seeking orbs are black spheres of chakra that contain all 5 basic nature transformations plus yin and yang release. These orbs can negate most ninjutsu on contact because they contain all chakra natures and can nullify techniques by disrupting their chakra composition. The orbs can also change shape, transforming into various weapons or shields as needed. They can be used offensively to cut through nearly anything or defensively to block attacks. Truth-seeking orbs are considered some of the most powerful weapons in the entire series because of their versatility and their ability to bypass most defensive techniques. Tonari could create and control multiple truth-seeking orbs simultaneously, forming them into different configurations for attack and defense. He used them to create a massive sword that could cut through rock and metal with ease. He also used them as shields to protect himself from Naruto's attacks. The ability to manipulate these orbs with such precision and to maintain multiple orbs at once demonstrates the immense chakra control and power provided by the Tensigen. The Tensigen grants its user access to a special chakra mode called Tensigen Chakra Mode. When this mode is activated, the user's entire body becomes cloaked in a brilliant blue-green chakra aura. This chakra cloak enhances all of the user's physical abilities, including strength, speed, and durability. The visual appearance is similar to Naruto's Ninetales chakra mode, with the chakra forming a visible layer around the body. While in Tensigen chakra mode, the user's power increases dramatically, and they gain access to the full range of Tensigen abilities at their maximum potential. In Tensigen chakra mode, Tonari's physical abilities increase to the point where he could match Naruto in combat. Naruto at this point was extremely powerful, having fully mastered the Ninetales power and possessing 6 Paths chakra from Hagoromo. The fact that Tonari could fight evenly with Naruto while in Tensigen chakra mode demonstrates just how much power this form grants. The chakra cloak also provides protection, reducing damage from attacks and allowing the user to withstand techniques that would normally be lethal. The Tensigen can control and manipulate puppets on a massive scale. Tonari used his Tensigen to control an army of puppets simultaneously, directing them in combat and coordination without any visible strings or physical connection. These were not ordinary puppets, but specially crafted constructs imbued with chakra. The precision required to control multiple puppets at once, while also fighting directly, suggests that the Tensigen enhances mental processing and multitasking ability. This puppet control ability likely relates to the Tensigen's power over chakra and energy, allowing the user to remotely manipulate objects and constructs through chakra connections. The energy vessel on the moon, which contained the massive artificial Tensigen created from countless Byakugan, served as the power source for the entire Otsutsuki civilization there. The moon is hollow, and the Otsutsuki built their civilization inside it. This artificial Tensigen provided light, energy, and sustenance to the moon's inhabitants. It also maintained the mechanisms that allowed the moon to function as a seal for the Gido statue. The energy vessel represented the accumulated power of generations of Otsutsuki Byakugan combined into a single source. This demonstrates that while individual Tensigen are extremely powerful, the collective power of many Byakugan merged together can create something even more significant. Toneri's plan involved using the energy vessel's power in combination with his own Tensigen to destroy Earth. He believed this was Hamura's will and that humanity had failed to use chakra responsibly. By moving the moon to collide with Earth, Toneri intended to wipe out all life on the planet and start over. The fact that he had the power to actually attempt this shows the destructive potential of the Tensigen when used with malicious intent. Only Naruto's intervention prevented the moon from colliding with Earth and stopped Toneri's plan. The Tensigen shares some similarities with the Rinnegan, but also has distinct differences. Both can manipulate attractive and repulsive forces, suggesting some overlap in their abilities. Both are considered evolutionary forms of other Dojutsu, with the Rinnegan evolving from the Sharingan and the Tensigen evolving from the Byakugan. Both grant access to truth-seeking orbs, which are typically associated with Six Paths level power. However, the Tensigen appears to be more focused on energy manipulation and gravitational control, while the Rinnegan has a broader range of abilities through the Six Paths technique. The Tensigen's blue color contrasts with the Rinnegan's purple color, and their patterns are completely different. The awakening conditions for the Tensigen are more specific than those for the Rinnegan. The Rinnegan can be awakened by combining Indra and Asura's chakra, which can happen through various means, such as an Uchiha obtaining Senju DNA. The Tensigen specifically requires an Otsutsuki to obtain a Hyuga Byakugan through transplantation. This narrower requirement makes the Tensigen potentially even rarer than the Rinnegan, especially since the Otsutsuki clan on the moon has been largely wiped out. With Toneri being the last survivor and with no guarantee that other Otsutsuki in space possess the specific lineage needed, the Tensigen may be functionally extinct as a naturally occurring dojutsu. The relationship between Hamura's descendants on the moon and his descendants on Earth is central to the Tensigen's existence. Over many generations, the moon Otsutsuki maintained their pure bloodline, while the Earth-based Hyuga mixed with humans and lost their direct Otsutsuki characteristics. However, the Hyuga retained the Byakugan, which carried Hamura's genetic legacy. When these two branches of Hamura's family reunite through the transplantation of Byakugan, it recreates the original power that Hamura possessed, allowing the Tensigen to manifest. This represents a kind of genetic completion, where the separated bloodlines come back together to restore an ancient power. The Tensigen can apparently be deactivated and reactivated at will, similar to the Sharingan and Rinnegan. Toneri's eyes appeared as normal Byakugan when he was not actively using the Tensigen's full power, but when he activated Tensigen chakra mode or used specific abilities, his eyes transformed into their blue Tensigen form. This suggests that the Tensigen has both an inactive state that appears as Byakugan and an active state with the distinctive blue appearance and full power. This is different from the Rinnegan, which maintains its distinctive appearance constantly once awakened. The chakra cost of using the Tensigen appears to be substantial but manageable for someone with Otsutsuki chakra reserves. Toneri could maintain Tensigen chakra mode for extended periods during his battle with Naruto, and could continuously manipulate the moon's trajectory while also engaging in combat. This suggests that while the Tensigen is chakra intensive, it is not as draining as the Rinnegan can be for users without Otsutsuki level chakra. The energy vessel also demonstrates that Tensigen power can be sustained continuously for generations if enough chakra is available to fuel it. When Toneri was defeated, Naruto destroyed the energy vessel that contained the artificial Tensigen created from countless Byakugan. This freed all the Byakugan that had been collected there over generations and returned them to their natural state. The destruction of the energy vessel did not affect Toneri's personal Tensigen immediately, but later, Toneri willingly returned Hanabi's Byakugan to her after realizing the error of his ways. When he removed the Byakugan from his eye sockets, he lost his Tensigen and became blind again, returning to his original state of having no eyes at all. The loss of the energy vessel and Toneri's redemption effectively ended the Tensigen's presence in the world. With no more Otsutsuki on the moon collecting Byakugan and no one attempting to awaken personal Tensigen, this dojutsu has essentially disappeared from existence. Toneri remains alive but blind, having given up his power. The Hyuga clan continues to possess Byakugan, but without Otsutsuki to transplant those eyes into, the Tensigen cannot manifest. This makes the Tensigen unique among the major dojutsu as one that appeared briefly and then vanished again, rather than continuing to exist in the world. The cultural and historical significance of the Tensigen connects to Hamura's legacy and the split between his descendants. Hamura chose to live on the moon and dedicate his life to guarding the seal on Kaguya and the Gedo statue. His descendants on the moon took this duty seriously and developed their civilization around this purpose. The Tenseigan represented their connection to Hamura and their authority as his direct descendants. Meanwhile, the Hyuga on Earth lost knowledge of their connection to Hamura and the moon Otsutsuki, developing their own culture and fighting style around the Byakugan. The movie's plot brings these two branches of the family back together and resolves the conflict between Hamura's descendants. The Tenseigan's ability to move the moon demonstrates power on a planetary scale. Very few abilities in the entire Naruto series operate at this level of magnitude. Moving an entire moon requires manipulating gravitational forces across astronomical distances and exerting energy equivalent to natural cosmic forces. This places the Tenseigan in the upper tier of all abilities shown in the series, comparable to the techniques used by Kaguya, Hagoromo, and the strongest characters. The fact that Toneri could accomplish this with a relatively newly awakened Tenseigan suggests that the fully matured and mastered Tenseigan might be capable of even greater feats. The blue color of the Tenseigan is symbolically significant. Blue often represents tranquility, divinity, and heaven in Japanese culture. The Tenseigan's blue appearance connects it to the moon, to Hamura's peaceful intentions, and to the heavenly origin of the Otsutsuki clan. This contrasts with the red of the Sharingan, which represents blood, passion, and conflict, and the purple of the Rinnegan, which represents royalty and power. The Tenseigan's blue suggests a different nature, one connected to the moon, to rebirth, and to the cycle that the name Reincarnation Eye implies. The truth-seeking orbs created by the Tenseigan are identical in function to those created by Six Paths Senjutsu or by being a Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails. This suggests that the Tenseigan grants access to the same level of power as Six Paths abilities, placing it firmly in the realm of God-tier techniques. The fact that these orbs can nullify most ninjutsu and can cut through nearly any defense makes them the ultimate weapon. Combined with the Tenseigan's other abilities, a Tenseigan user becomes nearly unstoppable in combat against ordinary ninja. The puppet control ability of the Tenseigan may connect to the Otsutsuki's general affinity for puppet techniques. The Otsutsuki clan on the moon developed extensive puppet-based technology and combat systems. The Tenseigan's ability to control these puppets remotely and in large numbers suggests that the Dojutsu naturally enhances the user's capability with puppet techniques. This is unique among the major Dojutsu, as neither the Sharingan, Rinnegan, nor Byakugan grant specific abilities related to puppets. The Tenseigan represents the culmination of Hamura's bloodline, just as the Rinnegan represents the culmination of Hagoromo's bloodline. Both brothers were sons of Kaguya, and both possessed immense power, but their powers manifested differently. Hagoromo's line led to the Sharingan and ultimately the Rinnegan, through the combination of Indra and Asura's chakra. Hamura's line led to the Byakugan and ultimately the Tenseigan through the combination of pure Otsutsuki and Hyuga bloodlines. This parallel structure shows that both brothers' legacies contain the potential for evolution to ultimate Dojutsu forms, though the paths to reach those forms differ significantly. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Next up we have the Ketsuryugen. The Ketsuryugen is the Dojutsu Kekkei Genkai of the Chinoike clan. The name Ketsuryugen translates to Blood Dragon Eye in Japanese, which directly references its appearance and abilities. When activated, the Ketsuryugen causes the entire eye to turn blood red, including the sclera, iris, and pupil. This gives the user's eyes a completely crimson appearance that is both distinctive and intimidating. Unlike the Sharingan, which maintains a black pupil and white sclera with red iris and tomoe, or the Byakugan, which turns the eyes pale white, the Ketsuryugen transforms the entire eye into a uniform red color. This total color change makes it immediately recognizable and impossible to mistake for any other dojutsu. The Chinoike clan originated in the Land of Lightning and possessed the Ketsuryugen as their hereditary bloodline ability. The clan's history is marked by tragedy and persecution. Long ago, the Chinoike clan lived in the Land of Lightning and served the nation, but their power made others fear them. The abilities of the Ketsuryugen, particularly the control over blood, were seen as disturbing and dangerous by those who did not possess the dojutsu. This fear led to suspicion and eventually persecution. The Chinoike clan was accused of crimes they did not commit and were scapegoated for various incidents. The distrust grew to the point where the Chinook clan could no longer safely remain in the Land of Lightning. The clan was eventually exiled from the Land of Lightning and forced to relocate to a remote valley. This valley was isolated and harsh, barely capable of sustaining life. The Chinook clan settled there and attempted to build a new life away from persecution. However, their exile was not merely relocation, but effectively a death sentence. The valley they were sent to was known as the Valley of Hell, a place with extreme conditions that made survival extraordinarily difficult. The valley contained natural hot springs and geysers that made the environment hostile and dangerous. Despite these conditions, the Chinook clan persevered and adapted to their new home, using their abilities to survive in this unforgiving environment. The primary ability of the Ketsuryugen is powerful Genjutsu. A Ketsuryugen user can cast Genjutsu simply by making eye contact with a target, similar to the Sharingan but with its own distinct characteristics. The Genjutsu cast through the Ketsuryugen is particularly strong and difficult to break. The illusions created can trap the target in realistic scenarios that feel completely real to the victim. These genjutsu can cause intense psychological trauma by forcing the victim to experience horrifying situations that prey on their fears and weaknesses. The Ketsuryugen's genjutsu can affect multiple people simultaneously if the user is skilled enough. Though maintaining illusions on multiple targets requires significant concentration and chakra, the genjutsu capabilities of the Ketsuryugen are considered comparable to those of the Sharingan in terms of raw power. A skilled Ketsuryugen user can trap even experienced ninja in illusions that are nearly impossible to distinguish from reality. The victim may not realize they are under genjutsu until it is too late, and breaking free requires either exceptional mental discipline or external assistance from an ally who can disrupt the victim's chakra flow. The effectiveness of Ketsuryugen genjutsu makes the Chinook clan members formidable opponents in psychological warfare and interrogation. The most unique and distinctive ability of the Ketsuryugen is the power to control liquids with high iron content, particularly blood. This ability works by manipulating the iron particles suspended in blood and other iron-rich liquids. The user can sense where blood is located, even when it is inside another person's body, and can exert control over it remotely. This control extends to both fresh blood and dried blood, though fresh liquid blood is easier to manipulate. The user can also control other liquids that contain sufficient iron content, making this ability versatile beyond just blood manipulation. A Ketsuryugen user can manipulate blood outside of the body as a weapon. They can cause blood that has been spilled to move and shape itself according to their will. The blood can be formed into various shapes, such as needles, blades, or waves that can be launched at opponents. These blood constructs are solid enough to cut and pierce like real weapons despite being made of liquid. The user can also harden blood to increase its effectiveness as a weapon or defense. This external blood manipulation gives the Ketsuryugen user access to a unique fighting style that becomes more effective in prolonged battles where more blood has been spilled. The internal blood manipulation ability is even more dangerous. A Ketsuryugen user can affect the blood inside another person's body if they are within range and can focus on the target. This allows them to cause severe internal damage without ever physically touching the opponent. The user can make blood flow irregularly, cause blood vessels to rupture, or even stop blood flow entirely to specific organs or limbs. This ability can incapacitate or kill an opponent quickly if the user is skilled and the target has no defense against it. The internal manipulation is more difficult than external manipulation because it requires penetrating the target's chakra network and overcoming any resistance they might have, but against an unprepared opponent, it is devastatingly effective. The Ketsuryugen user can sense blood in their surroundings, giving them a form of sensory ability. They can detect where people are located based on the blood in their bodies, even through walls or other obstacles. This makes it difficult to hide from a Ketsuryugen user or to ambush them because they can sense the presence of any living creature with blood in its veins. This sensory ability has a limited range compared to other sensory techniques like the Byakugan's vision, but within its effective range, it is highly accurate and difficult to fool. The manipulation of blood can also be used for medical purposes. A Ketsuryugen user with medical knowledge could potentially control blood flow to accelerate healing, prevent excessive bleeding from wounds, or keep someone alive by manually controlling their circulation when their heart stops. This medical application of the Ketsuryugen's abilities is rarely shown but represents a potential use of the power that is constructive rather than destructive. The same ability that can kill by disrupting blood flow can also save lives by maintaining or restoring proper circulation. Chino is one of the most prominent users of the Ketsuryugen shown in the series. She is a descendant of the Chinoik clan and one of the few surviving members after her clan was nearly wiped out. Chino's Ketsuryugen is fully awakened, and she demonstrates significant skill with both the genjutsu and blood manipulation aspects of the dojutsu. Her use of the Ketsuryugen in combat shows the versatility of the abilities, as she employs both illusions to confuse enemies and blood manipulation to attack them physically. Chino's mastery of the Ketsuryugen makes her a dangerous opponent despite not having the fame or recognition of Sharingan or Byakugan users. Chino's genjutsu is particularly potent. She can trap opponents in illusions that are layered and complex, making them difficult to recognize as illusions. Her genjutsu often involves horrifying scenarios that break down the target's mental defenses and leave them vulnerable to follow-up attacks. She has demonstrated the ability to maintain these illusions while simultaneously engaging in physical combat, showing the level of control and multitasking ability that comes with mastery of the Ketsuryugen. Her genjutsu can affect even skilled ninja who have experience dealing with illusions, demonstrating that the Ketsuryugen's illusionary prowess rivals that of more famous dojutsu. The blood manipulation techniques Chino uses include forming blood into weapons and projectiles. She can take blood from wounds, either her own or from enemies, and shape it into sharp implements that she launches at high speed. These blood weapons can pierce flesh and cause serious injury. She can also create larger constructs of blood that act as barriers or shields to protect herself from attacks. The versatility of blood as a substance means that a creative Ketsuryugen user can develop many different applications for the manipulation ability. The history of the Chinoik clan's persecution explains why the Ketsuryugen is so rare and why few people in the ninja world recognize it. Unlike the Sharingan, which is famous throughout all nations, or the Byakugan, which is well known because of the Hyuga clan's prominence in Konoha, the Ketsuryugen remained relatively unknown because the Chinoik clan was driven into hiding and near extinction. The clan's exile to the Valley of Hell isolated them from the rest of the world, and subsequent events led to most clan members being killed. This near-total annihilation of the clan means that very few Ketsuryugen users remain, making encounters with the dojutsu extremely rare. The appearance of the Valley of Hell, where the Chinoite clan was exiled, is harsh and inhospitable. The valley is filled with naturally occurring hot springs that reach dangerous temperatures and geysers that periodically erupt with scalding water. The ground is unstable in many areas and covered with minerals and iron deposits from the hot springs. The high iron content in the valley's water and soil actually made it a suitable place for the Chinoike clan, because they could use their Ketsuryugen abilities to manipulate the iron-rich liquids in the environment. What was meant to be a death sentence became a place where their abilities were enhanced by the natural conditions. The Chinoik clan adapted their fighting style to take advantage of the Valley of Hell's environment. They could manipulate the iron-rich hot spring water as easily as blood, giving them control over large volumes of liquid that they could use as weapons. This environmental advantage meant that anyone who came to the Valley of Hell to attack the Chinoik clan would face opponents who could weaponize the very ground beneath their feet. The clan turned their prison into a fortress, using their Ketsuryugen abilities in combination with the natural resources available. The Ketsuryugen does not appear to have evolutionary stages like the Sharingan's progression from 1 Tomoe to 3 Tomoe to Mangekyo Sharingan. The Ketsuryugen appears to exist in a single form, and the difference between users comes from their skill level and training rather than from the eye itself evolving. A more experienced Ketsuryugen user has better control over blood manipulation and can cast more powerful genjutsu, but the eye's appearance and fundamental capabilities remain the same. This makes the Ketsuryugen similar to the Byakugan in that it does not have multiple distinct forms or evolutionary paths. The activation of the Ketsuryugen is voluntary, similar to the Sharingan and Byakugan. A Chinwai clan member can activate and deactivate their Ketsuryugen at will, though some powerful users may keep it active for extended periods. When not active, the user's eyes appear normal, showing their regular eye color. Only when the Ketsuryugen is activated does the characteristic blood red coloration appear. This ability to hide the dojutsu was likely useful for the clan during times of persecution, as it allowed them to avoid immediate identification as Chinoiki clan members if they kept their eyes deactivated. The chakra cost of using the Ketsuryugen appears to be manageable for those born with it. Chino and other clan members can maintain their Ketsuryugen for extended periods during combat without showing signs of excessive exhaustion. However, the blood manipulation techniques themselves consume chakra, particularly when manipulating large volumes of blood or when attempting to control blood inside another person's body against their resistance. The genjutsu cast through the Ketsuryugen also consumes chakra proportional to the complexity and number of targets, similar to genjutsu cast through other means. The relationship between the Ketsuryugen and other dojutsu is one of relative obscurity. While the Sharingan, Byakugan, and Rinnegan are considered the three great dojutsu and are famous throughout the ninja world, the Ketsuryugen is known only to a few. This is not because the Ketsuryugen is weaker, but because the clan that possessed it was marginalized and nearly destroyed. Had the Chinoik clan remained in positions of power and prominence, the Ketsuryugen might have been recognized as one of the great dojutsu alongside the others. The abilities it grants are certainly powerful enough to deserve such recognition. In direct comparison to the Sharingan, the Ketsuryugen has both advantages and disadvantages. The Sharingan offers enhanced perception, the ability to copy techniques, and powerful genjutsu. The Ketsuryugen offers powerful genjutsu and the unique ability to manipulate blood. The Sharingan is more versatile in terms of learning and copying techniques, but the Ketsuryugen's blood manipulation provides offensive and defensive options that the Sharingan cannot match. In a fight between a skilled Ketsuryugen user and a skilled Sharingan user, the outcome would depend heavily on the specific circumstances and the individual abilities of each fighter, rather than one dojutsu being inherently superior. The blood manipulation aspect of the Ketsuryugen creates ethical and psychological implications. The ability to control blood, especially inside another person's body, is deeply unsettling to most people. This visceral reaction to blood manipulation was part of why the Chinoite clan faced fear and persecution. People found the idea of having their blood controlled against their will to be horrifying, and this fear translated into hatred of the clan that possessed such power. This mirrors real-world fears of loss of bodily autonomy and makes the Ketsuryugen one of the more disturbing dojutsu in terms of what it represents psychologically. The Ketsuryugen's abilities make it particularly effective against opponents who bleed easily or who fight in close quarters. Once an opponent is injured and bleeding, a Ketsuryugen user gains additional ammunition for their attacks by manipulating the spilled blood. This creates a situation where injuring a Ketsuryugen user or their allies can actually make the Ketsuryugen user more dangerous because it provides more blood to manipulate. This dynamic changes the usual combat calculus, where causing bleeding is advantageous to the attacker. Against a Ketsuryugen user, causing bleeding might strengthen the opponent. There are limitations to blood manipulation that prevent it from being completely unstoppable. The range of control is limited, meaning the Ketsuryugen user must be relatively close to the blood they want to manipulate. The user also needs to focus and concentrate to maintain control, particularly when manipulating blood inside another person's body. If the user is distracted or their concentration is broken, the control can be lost. Additionally, if the target has strong chakra control or special abilities that protect their body's integrity, they may be able to resist the internal manipulation to some degree. The genjutsu cast through the Ketsuryugen can be broken through standard genjutsu breaking techniques, though it requires significant mental strength or external help. Pain can help break the illusion, as can having an ally disrupt the victim's chakra flow. However, the Ketsuryugen's genjutsu is strong enough that these methods are not always reliable, especially if the user is highly skilled. Some victims may require very intense pain or multiple attempts at chakra disruption before they can break free from the illusion. The iron manipulation extends beyond just blood to any liquid with sufficient iron content. This means a Ketsuryugen user could potentially manipulate certain types of groundwater if they contain high iron concentrations, or manipulate iron-rich mud or soil in wet conditions. This versatility makes the Ketsuryugen adaptable to different environments, though it is most effective in situations where blood is present or where the natural environment contains iron-rich liquids like in the Valley of Hell. The survival of the Ketsuryugen into the present era depends on the few remaining members of the Chinoik clan. With the clan nearly extinct, There are very few individuals who can pass on the bloodline to future generations. If the remaining Ketsuryugen users die without having children, the Dojutsu will disappear from the world entirely. This precarious situation means the Ketsuryugen is potentially on the verge of extinction, unlike the Sharingan and Byakugan, which have larger populations of users to ensure their continuation. The cultural identity of the Chinwhite clan is deeply tied to their Ketsuryugen and their history of persecution. The clan members see themselves as survivors and outcasts, forced to live in hiding because of fear and hatred from others. This shared trauma has shaped the clan's worldview and has made them distrustful of outsiders. The Ketsuryugen serves as both a source of pride, as it represents their unique heritage and power, and a burden, as it is the reason they were persecuted in the first place. This duality mirrors the experience of other clans with bloodline abilities, who have faced discrimination or exploitation because of their powers. The potential for misuse of the Ketsuryugen is significant. The ability to manipulate blood inside people's bodies could be used for assassination, torture, or mass killing, with little evidence left behind. A skilled Ketsuryugen user could kill someone by causing internal hemorrhaging that looks like natural causes. They could torture information out of prisoners by manipulating their blood to cause intense pain without leaving external marks. These dark applications of the power are part of why the Chinoi clan was feared and why their abilities were seen as sinister rather than simply powerful. However, the Ketsuryugen also has the potential for beneficial uses. In medical settings, the ability to control blood flow could save lives by preventing patients from bleeding out or by manually maintaining circulation during surgery. The sensory ability to detect blood could help locate injured people buried under rubble or hidden in other situations. The Genjutsu ability could potentially be used for therapy or for helping people overcome trauma by carefully controlled exposure in a safe, illusory environment. These positive applications are rarely explored because of the clan's isolation and the general fear surrounding their abilities. The legacy of the Ketsuryugen is one of power overshadowed by tragedy. The Chinoik clan possessed a Dojutsu that rivaled the famous bloodline abilities of other nations, but instead of bringing them prestige and respect, it brought them persecution and near extinction. The fear and misunderstanding that surrounded the Ketsuryugen's blood manipulation abilities prevented the clan from ever achieving the recognition or status that clans like the Uchiha or Hyuga enjoyed. This serves as a cautionary tale about how power is perceived, and how abilities that seem disturbing or unsettling can lead to prejudice, regardless of the actual intentions of those who possess them. The appearance of the Ketsuryugen in the modern era through characters like Chino represents a chance for the Dojutsu to be understood properly, and for the Chinwhite clan's legacy to be rehabilitated. As more people learn about the Ketsuryugen and see that it is simply another bloodline ability rather than something inherently evil, the fear and stigma surrounding it may diminish. However, with so few users remaining, the window for this rehabilitation is narrow, and the Ketsuryugen may disappear before it ever receives the recognition it deserves as one of the powerful dojutsu of the ninja world. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Jogen. The Jogen is a unique dojutsu that manifests in Boruto Uzumaki's right eye. The name Jogen means pure eye in Japanese, which reflects its distinctive appearance and nature. Unlike other dojutsu that appear in both eyes or can be activated in either eye, the Jogen only manifests in Boruto's right eye, while his left eye remains normal. This asymmetrical presentation makes the Jogen immediately distinctive among known dojutsu. The appearance of the Jogen differs between the anime and manga versions of Boruto's story, showing some inconsistency in how it is visually represented across different media. In the anime, the Jogen appears with a pale blue or light blue iris and a dark sclera that is distinctly darker than a normal eye's white sclera. This creates a striking contrast where the eye looks almost inverted compared to a regular eye. The pupil remains visible as a darker spot in the center of the pale iris. When the Jogen activates, this color change is dramatic and obvious, making it clear that Boruto is using a special ability. The dark sclera is particularly distinctive and helps differentiate the Jogen from other dojutsu that typically maintain white sclera, like the Byakugan, or have completely different color schemes, like the red of the Sharingan. In the manga, the Jogen's appearance is simpler and less dramatic. It appears as a pale eye without the dark sclera shown in the anime. The manga version looks more similar to a Byakugan in some respects, with the eye becoming lighter in color when active. This difference in visual representation between anime and manga creates some ambiguity about the Jogen's true appearance, though both versions agree that the eye changes to a notably paler color when activated. The manga's simpler design may be easier to draw consistently across many panels, while the anime's more elaborate design with the dark sclera creates a more visually striking and memorable appearance. The Jogen is connected to the Otsutsuki clan, though the exact nature of this connection is not fully explained. Boruto is not a direct member of the Otsutsuki clan, but he is a descendant of Hagoromo Otsutsuki through the Uzumaki clan's connection to the Senju, and he also has Hyuga blood through his mother Hinata. This mixed heritage gives Boruto bloodlines from multiple sources, including both of Hagoromo's sons through Naruto's side and Hamura's lineage through Hinata's side. Additionally, Naruto had direct contact with the chakra of all nine-tailed beasts and received chakra from Hagoromo himself, which may have influenced Boruto's genetics. The combination of these various bloodline factors appears to have created the conditions for the Jogen to manifest. The Jogen awakened in Boruto without him understanding what was happening or how to control it. Initially, the eye would activate on its own in response to specific stimuli, particularly when Otsutsuki-related threats or phenomena were nearby. Boruto had no conscious control over when the Jogen appeared, and often did not even realize it had activated. He would simply notice that he could suddenly see things that others could not see, or that something about his perception had changed. This involuntary activation pattern is different from dojutsu like the Sharingan or Byakugan, which users typically activate consciously once they have awakened them. One of the primary abilities of the Jogen is the capacity to see chakra flow. Similar to the Byakugan, the Jogen allows Boruto to perceive the movement of chakra through a person's body and through the environment. He can see chakra pathways inside people and observe how chakra moves and circulates. This ability makes it possible to analyze an opponent's techniques and understand how they are using their chakra. The Jogen's chakra vision appears to be at least comparable to the Byakugan's in terms of clarity and detail, suggesting that the ability to see chakra is one of the Jogen's fundamental functions. The Jogen can detect changes in chakra that might otherwise go unnoticed. When chakra behaves abnormally, or when there are disruptions in the normal flow of chakra, the Jogen can identify these irregularities. This makes it useful for detecting genjutsu, identifying when someone is gathering chakra for a technique, or noticing when chakra has been disturbed by the presence of something unusual. This sensitivity to chakra changes gives Boruto an early warning system that can alert him to dangers before they fully manifest. One of the most significant abilities of the Jogen is that it can perceive weak points in an opponent's chakra network. By analyzing how chakra flows through a person, the Jogen can identify areas where the chakra flow is weaker or less stable. These weak points represent vulnerabilities that can be exploited in combat. If Boruto strikes at these weak points, he can disrupt his opponent's chakra system more effectively than random attacks would. This ability is similar in concept to the gentle fist style used by the Hyuga clan with their Byakugan, where specific points in the chakra network are targeted to disable the opponent's ability to use chakra properly. The Jogen can see invisible barriers and boundaries between dimensions. This is perhaps the Jogen's most unique and mysterious ability. The ninja world has multiple dimensions and spaces that exist parallel to the normal world, and there are barriers between these dimensions that prevent casual travel between them. Most people cannot perceive these dimensional barriers at all, but the Jogen makes them visible to Boruto. He can see where rifts between dimensions exist, where portals have been opened, and where the boundaries between different spaces are located. This ability appears to be directly related to the Otsutsuki clan's use of space-time techniques and their ability to travel between dimensions. The ability to perceive dimensional barriers proved crucial in several situations. When entities from other dimensions or when space-time distortions occurred, Boruto's Jogen activated and allowed him to see what was happening even when others were completely unaware. He could see rifts opening, could detect when something had crossed over from another dimension, and could identify the presence of Otsutsuki-related phenomena that were invisible to everyone else. This made Boruto uniquely capable of detecting certain types of threats that even experienced ninja with advanced sensory abilities might miss. The Jogen reacts to the presence of Otsutsuki clan members and Otsutsuki-related entities. When someone from the Otsutsuki clan is nearby, or when something connected to the Otsutsuki appears, Boruto's Jogen tends to activate automatically, even if he is not consciously trying to use it. This automatic response suggests that the Jogen has some kind of inherent connection to the Otsutsuki that causes it to resonate or react when their presence or influence is detected. This reactive quality made the Jogen function as a warning system for Otsutsuki threats before Boruto even understood what his eye was or what it could do. The Jogen's ability to detect hidden presences extends beyond just seeing chakra. The eye can sense dangerous entities or threats, even when they are concealed or cloaked in ways that would fool normal perception. This includes detecting enemies who are hiding their presence through specialized techniques, identifying threats that are invisible or intangible, and sensing malicious intent even from beings that do not have conventional chakra. This broad sensory capability makes the Jogen an exceptional tool for reconnaissance and threat detection. Boruto's lack of control over the Jogen in its early manifestations created problems for him. The eye would activate at seemingly random times, and he had no way to deliberately trigger it when he needed it. This unreliability meant that he could not count on having access to the Jogen's abilities when they would be most useful. Sometimes the eye would activate in situations where Boruto did not understand why it was activating or what it was showing him. This led to confusion and frustration as he tried to make sense of what was happening to him. The process of learning to control the Jogen is gradual and ongoing. Over time, Boruto begins to gain more awareness of his eye and more ability to activate it deliberately, rather than waiting for it to activate on its own. This learning process involves understanding what triggers the Jogen, what it is responding to, and how to consciously engage the Dojutsu when needed. As Boruto's control improves, the Jogen becomes a more reliable tool that he can use strategically, rather than a mysterious ability that appears unpredictably. The origin of the Jogen remains somewhat mysterious. Unlike Dojutsu, such as the Sharingan, which has a well-documented history and clear rules for how it awakens, or the Byakugan, which is a straightforward hereditary trait, the Jogen's emergence in Boruto does not follow established patterns. Boruto is the only known person to possess the Jogen, making it impossible to study the Dojutsu in other users, or to understand how it typically manifests. The uniqueness of the Jogen raises questions about whether it is a new mutation, a re-emergence of an ancient Otsutsuki ability, or something created by the specific combination of bloodlines that Boruto possesses. The name Jogen, meaning pure eye, may refer to the eye's connection to the pure Otsutsuki bloodline, or to its ability to see through deceptions and perceive hidden truths. The concept of purity could relate to the eye's capacity to see things as they truly are without obstruction or illusion. It might also reference the pale, almost colorless appearance of the eye when activated, which could be described as a pure or untainted color compared to the vivid reds, purples, and blues of other dojutsu. The Jogen's abilities suggest that it might be an evolution or combination of traits from multiple dojutsu lineages. The ability to see chakra flow and identify weak points resembles Byakugan abilities, which makes sense given Boruto's Hyuga heritage through Hinata. The connection to Otsutsuki and the ability to perceive dimensional phenomena relates to the higher-level abilities seen in dojutsu like the Rinnegan and Rinne Sharingan. The Jogen might represent a convergence of these different bloodline traits into something new, created by Boruto's unique genetic inheritance from both the Uzumaki Senju line and the Hyuga line. The strategic value of the Jogen is significant. In combat, the ability to see weak points in an opponent's defenses and chakra network gives Boruto a major advantage. He can focus his attacks on vulnerable areas where they will have the greatest effect, rather than wasting energy on strongly defended points. The chakra vision allows him to read his opponent's techniques and respond appropriately. The dimensional perception ability is invaluable when dealing with enemies who use space-time ninjutsu or who come from other dimensions, which is particularly relevant given the threats posed by the Otsutsuki clan. Outside of direct combat, the Jogen's sensory abilities make Boruto valuable for missions requiring detection and reconnaissance. He can identify threats that others miss, see through concealment techniques, and detect dimensional anomalies. These abilities make him useful for tracking enemies, gathering intelligence, and identifying dangers before they fully manifest. As Boruto gains more control over his Jogen, these applications become more practical and reliable. The Jogen does not appear to have multiple evolutionary stages like the Sharingan's progression through Tomoe levels and eventually to Mangekyo Sharingan. The Jogen seems to exist in a single form, though Boruto's ability to use it effectively improves with practice and experience. The eye's fundamental appearance and capabilities remain consistent, and there is no indication of it evolving into a more powerful version. This is similar to how the Byakugan works, where the Dojutsu itself does not change, but the user's skill in utilizing it develops over time. The relationship between the Jogen and the Otsutsuki clan suggests that this Dojutsu may be more common among the Otsutsuki themselves, even though Boruto is the only known user in the current era. It is possible that other Otsutsuki possess the Jogen or similar abilities, but these have not been shown explicitly. The Jogen's ability to detect and react to Otsutsuki presence might indicate that it is specifically adapted to deal with threats from that clan, almost as if it is a natural defense mechanism that emerged in response to Otsutsuki influence on Earth's bloodlines. The appearance of the Jogen in only one eye rather than both eyes is unusual among Dojutsu. Most Dojutsu manifest in both eyes symmetrically, with the Sharingan, Byakugan, and Rinnegan all typically appearing in pairs. There are exceptions, such as when someone has one Sharingan transplanted like Kakashi, but those are artificial situations. The Jogen appearing naturally in only Boruto's right eye, while his left eye remains normal, is a unique characteristic that distinguishes it from other known Dojutsu. The reason for this asymmetric manifestation is not explained, though it may relate to the specific genetic factors that allowed the Jogen to emerge. The chakra cost of using the Jogen is not clearly defined in the material shown so far. Boruto does not appear to suffer significant exhaustion from the Jogen's activation in the way that Kakashi suffered from using his Sharingan. This might be because the Jogen is Boruto's natural dojutsu rather than a transplanted one. Or it might be because the Jogen's basic functions do not require enormous amounts of chakra to maintain. As Boruto's abilities develop, and if he learns more advanced techniques through the Jogen, the chakra costs may become more significant. The future potential of the Jogen is unknown. Because Boruto's mastery of the eye is still developing, and because the Jogen is unique to him with no historical precedent to study, it is unclear what the full extent of its abilities might be. The Jogen may have additional powers that have not yet manifested or that Boruto has not yet discovered. As he grows stronger and more skilled, new applications of the Jogen's abilities may emerge. The eye's connection to the Otsutsuki suggests that it might have capabilities related to their higher-level techniques that Boruto could potentially access as he develops. The cultural and social implications of the Jogen are still unfolding. Unlike the Sharingan, which carries the legacy of the Uchiha clan's tragedy, or the Byakugan, which represents the Hyuga clan's heritage, the Jogen does not yet have an established cultural meaning. Boruto is writing the story of this dojutsu through his own actions and experiences. How the Jogen comes to be perceived by others and what legacy it will leave depends on what Boruto does with this power and how he uses it. The mystery surrounding the Jogen adds to its intrigue. While other dojutsu have established histories, documented abilities, and multiple users whose experiences can be compared, the Jogen stands alone as an unknown quantity. This mystery creates both opportunity and uncertainty. Boruto has the freedom to develop the Jogen's abilities in his own way, without being constrained by traditions or expectations, but he also lacks guidance from others who have walked the same path. He must discover the Jogen's potential through his own experience and experimentation. The Jogen represents a new generation of power emerging in the ninja world. Just as Boruto is part of a new generation that must face different threats than their parents faced, the Jogen is a new dojutsu that may be specifically suited to dealing with the challenges of this new era. The Otsutsuki clan represents an existential threat to the entire world, and the Jogen's abilities appear particularly adapted to detecting and dealing with Otsutsuki-related phenomena. This suggests that the appearance of the Jogen in Boruto may not be coincidental, but rather a natural evolutionary response to the changing nature of threats facing the ninja world. The pale color of the Jogen in both its anime and manga versions creates a visual connection to the Byakugan, which also appears as a pale or white eye. This similarity is likely not accidental, given Boruto's Hyuga heritage through his mother. However, the Jogen is clearly distinct from the Byakugan in both appearance and function. Where the Byakugan grants near 360-degree vision and can see the chakra network in detail, the Jogen appears more specialized toward detecting dimensional phenomena and Otsutsuki-related threats, while still maintaining some chakra vision capabilities. This suggests the Jogen may be an evolution or variant of the Byakugan adapted for different purposes. The Jogen's ability to function as an early warning system for danger gives Boruto a survival advantage. Even when he is not consciously aware of a threat, the Jogan can activate and alert him to danger through the changes in his perception. This protective quality makes the Jogan valuable not just as a tool for combat or analysis, but as a mechanism that helps keep Boruto alive in dangerous situations. As he becomes more attuned to the Jogan's signals, he can learn to recognize what different types of activation mean and respond appropriately to the warnings the eye provides. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on to the Kokugan. The Kokugan is the unique dojutsu possessed by Ishiki Otsutsuki in his right eye. The name Kokugan translates to black eye in Japanese, which describes its distinctive dark appearance. In early manga chapters featuring Ishiki, this dojutsu was simply referred to as Ishiki's Dojutsu without a specific name. Later sources and guidebooks officially designated it as the Kokugan, giving it a proper name that distinguishes it from other known dojutsu. This naming pattern is similar to how other Otsutsuki clan members possess unique eye abilities that are specific to them rather than being shared across multiple users. The Kokugan appears only in Ishiki's right eye, making it an asymmetrical dojutsu like Boruto's Jogan. Ishiki's left eye is a Byakugan, which is the standard dojutsu of the Otsutsuki clan. The combination of having a Byakugan in one eye and the Kokugan in the other gives Ishiki access to two different sets of abilities simultaneously. The Byakugan provides him with the sensory and perception abilities that are characteristic of that dojutsu, including the ability to see chakra and perceive his surroundings with near-complete vision. The Kokugan in his right eye grants him access to completely different and unique abilities that are specific to this particular dojutsu. The appearance of the Kokugan is notably different from other dojutsu. It has a dark appearance that contrasts with the pale color of the Byakugan in Ishiki's other eye. The exact visual design of the Kokugan includes patterns that are distinct and recognizable as belonging specifically to this eye technique. The dark coloration is what gives the eye its name, as Kokugan literally means black eye. This color scheme makes the Kokugan immediately distinguishable from the Sharingan's red, the Byakugan's pale white, the Rinnegan's purple, or the Jogan's pale blue. The darkness of the Kokugan reflects its connection to Ishiki's particular abilities and his role as one of the most dangerous members of the Otsutsuki clan. One of the primary abilities granted by the Kokugan is the capacity to perceive the life force of living beings. When Ishiki uses his Kokugan, he can see the life force of people and other living creatures visualized as flame-like shadows. This perception allows him to distinguish between living and non-living objects at a glance. He can see how much life force a being possesses, which gives him information about their vitality and strength. This ability to perceive life force directly is unique among the dojutsu shown in the series. While other eyes can see chakra, which is related to life force, the Kokugan's visualization of life force as flame-like shadows appears to be a distinct form of perception. The visualization of life force as flames may indicate the intensity or quantity of life energy present in a target. A person with strong life force might appear as a brighter or larger flame, while someone weakened or near death might have a dimmer or smaller flame. This gives Ishiki immediate tactical information about his opponents, allowing him to assess their condition without needing to test them in combat. He can identify who poses the greatest threat based on their life force, who is weakened and vulnerable, and who might be hiding their true strength. This sensory ability makes it difficult to deceive Ishiki through conventional means. The most significant ability associated with the Kokugan is Sukuna Hikona. This is a space-time ninjutsu that allows Ishiki to shrink objects and himself. The technique's name comes from Japanese mythology, where Sukuna Hikona was a small deity associated with medicine and knowledge. The ability to shrink things is extraordinarily versatile and forms the core of Ishiki's fighting style. Sukuna Hikona works on any non-living object within Ishiki's field of vision through his Kokugan. He can look at an object and instantly shrink it down to microscopic size, making it effectively invisible to the naked eye. The shrinking is instantaneous and does not require physical contact, making it impossible to prevent once Ishiki has visual line of sight to the target. Ishiki can shrink himself using Sukuna Hikona, which is one of the most dangerous applications of the technique. By reducing his own size to microscopic or near-microscopic dimensions, Ishiki becomes effectively invisible and nearly impossible to hit. He can move around undetected, position himself for attacks, and avoid incoming techniques by simply shrinking himself before they connect. This defensive application of Sukuna Hikona makes Ishiki extremely difficult to harm because conventional attacks cannot land on a target that is too small to see or hit. Even wide-area attacks that might catch a small target can be avoided if Ishiki shrinks himself small enough to fit between the molecules or particles of the attack. The shrinking effect of Sukuna Hikona is not permanent. Ishiki can restore shrunken objects to their original size at will. This restoration happens instantly, just like the shrinking process. The ability to control when objects return to normal size is crucial for Ishiki's combat applications of the technique. He can shrink objects, store them or position them strategically, and then restore them at the moment when their restoration will have the greatest effect. This creates a form of delayed attack where the danger is invisible until the moment Ishiki chooses to restore the shrunken object. One of Ishiki's primary combat tactics involves shrinking objects and then restoring them inside or adjacent to his opponents. He can shrink large objects like massive cubes or rods, then position them in the air near his target while they remain microscopic and invisible. At the moment of his choosing, Ishiki restores these objects to full size, causing them to suddenly materialize and strike the opponent. Because the objects are invisible while shrunken, the opponent has no warning and cannot see the attack coming. They suddenly find themselves struck by large objects that appear from nowhere. This makes defending against Ishiki's attacks extremely difficult because there is no way to perceive the threat until it is too late. The size-shifting abilities work on a massive scale. Ishiki can shrink objects as large as buildings, or even larger if they are within his field of vision. He can also shrink numerous objects simultaneously, creating an arsenal of shrunken projectiles and weapons that he can deploy whenever needed. The limitation is that Sukuna Hikona only works on non-living matter. Ishiki cannot shrink other people or living creatures besides himself. This restriction prevents him from simply shrinking his opponents out of existence, which would make him effectively unbeatable. The inability to shrink living beings means Ishiki must still fight his opponents directly, rather than just eliminating them with size manipulation. The restriction that Sukuna Hikona only works on non-living objects creates an interesting tactical dynamic. While Ishiki can shrink weapons, armor, and even the clothes his opponents wear, he cannot shrink their actual bodies. This means that protective techniques made of chakra or other energy might not be shrinkable, depending on whether they count as living or non-living. The exact boundaries of what qualifies as non-living for the purposes of Sukuna Hikona are not perfectly clear, but standard objects like rocks, metal, wood, and similar materials are definitely affected. Ishiki's fighting style revolves around the combination of his Byakugan's sensory abilities and the Kokugan's Sukuna Hikona technique. He uses the Byakugan to perceive his surroundings, track his opponent's movements, and see chakra flow. He then uses Sukuna Hikona through the Kokugan to shrink himself for defense and to shrink objects for offense. This combination makes him exceptionally dangerous in combat because he has both perfect awareness of the battlefield through his Byakugan and the ability to attack from unexpected angles with invisible shrunken objects through his Kokugan. The two Dojutsu complement each other perfectly, covering both offensive and defensive needs. The tactical applications of Sukuna Hikona extend beyond just combat. Ishiki can use the shrinking ability for infiltration by reducing his size and entering spaces that would normally be inaccessible. He can bypass barriers and defenses by shrinking himself small enough to pass through gaps or holes. He can escape from containment or sealing techniques by shrinking himself before they fully activate. The mobility and infiltration capabilities provided by size manipulation make Ishiki extremely difficult to contain or restrict. Ishiki can shrink and carry numerous objects with him while they are in their reduced state. Because shrunken objects are microscopic, they weigh virtually nothing and take up no space. This allows Ishiki to have an effectively unlimited inventory of weapons and tools that he can access instantly by restoring them to full size. He can carry building-sized objects on his person while they are shrunken and deploy them in combat whenever needed. This eliminates the usual logistical limitations that ninja face regarding equipment and supplies. The Kokugan and Sukuna Hikona technique were eventually passed to Kawaki through the Karma seal. Karma is a seal that Otsutsuki clan members place on suitable vessels, and it gradually overwrites the vessel's genetic data with the Otsutsuki's own data, eventually allowing the Otsutsuki to resurrect in the vessel's body. Ishiki placed his karma on Kawaki, and as the karma progressed, Kawaki gained access to some of Ishiki's abilities, including Sukunahi Kona. Kawaki's right eye develops a pattern similar to Ishiki's Kokugan when he uses these abilities, showing that the Dojutsu itself has been partially transferred through the karma. Kawaki's version of Sukunahi Kona functions the same way as Ishiki's original technique. Kawaki can shrink non-living objects within his field of vision and restore them at will. He can shrink himself for defense and evasion. He uses the technique in combat with tactics similar to those Ishiki employed, shrinking objects and then restoring them to attack opponents. The transfer of this ability through karma demonstrates that the Kokugan's powers are not just learned techniques, but are inherently connected to Ishiki's genetic and biological structure, which the karma seal copies into the vessel. The process of Kawaki gaining the Kokugan's abilities through karma highlights how Otsutsuki Dojutsu can be transferred or inherited through methods other than natural birth. While most bloodline abilities are passed from parent to child through normal reproduction, the Otsutsuki's karma system allows them to transfer their abilities to non-related individuals by overwriting the vessel's biology. This makes Otsutsuki Dojutsu potentially accessible to anyone who receives a karma seal, though at the cost of eventually losing their own identity as the Otsutsuki's data overwrites theirs. The strategic value of Sukunahi Kona in combat cannot be overstated. The ability to become effectively invisible by shrinking makes the user nearly impossible to hit with conventional attacks. The ability to deploy invisible attacks that suddenly materialize gives the user offensive capabilities that are extremely difficult to defend against. The combination of these offensive and defensive applications creates a fighting style where the user has overwhelming advantages in both attacking and avoiding damage. This is part of why Ishiki was considered one of the most dangerous threats in the entire series. Countering Sukunahi Kona requires specific strategies. Because the shrunken objects are invisible, opponents need sensory abilities that can detect things beyond normal vision. Techniques that affect wide areas without needing to target specific points can potentially hit Ishiki even when he is shrunken, though he can avoid even these by shrinking to extremely small sizes. The most effective counter is to prevent Ishiki from shrinking in the first place by attacking faster than he can react, but this requires speed that exceeds even an Otsutsuki's reflexes, which very few beings possess. The chakra cost of using Sukunahi Kona appears to be manageable for Ishiki, as he uses the technique continuously throughout battles, without showing signs of exhaustion from the technique itself. As an Otsutsuki, Ishiki possesses enormous chakra reserves that allow him to use high-level techniques repeatedly. For Kawaki, who has human-level chakra reserves supplemented by the karma seal, the chakra cost might be more significant, though the karma provides additional chakra to help support the use of these abilities. The Kokugan's ability to see life force provides information that other sensory techniques cannot easily replicate. While the Byakugan can see chakra and the Sharingan can see chakra flow, the Kokugan's visualization of life force as flame-like shadows appears to measure something different. Life force is related to, but distinct from, chakra. A being could have large chakra reserves but weak life force if they are injured or dying, or could have strong life force but limited chakra if they are not a ninja. The Kokugan's ability to perceive life force directly gives Ishiki a different type of information about his opponents than what other dojutsu provide. The flame-like appearance of the life force visualization may indicate not just quantity but quality. Different colors or intensities of flame might represent different states of being or different types of life energy. Someone under the influence of certain techniques or transformations might display different flame characteristics visible to the Kokugan. This could allow Ishiki to identify when opponents are using specific power-ups or transformations based on changes in their life force appearance. The Kokugan does not appear to have evolutionary stages, like the Sharingan's progression through Tomoe. The Kokugan seems to exist in a single form with consistent abilities. Ishiki's mastery of the Kokugan comes from experience and skill rather than from the eye itself evolving. This is typical of Otsutsuki Dojutsu, which generally appear in their complete form rather than developing through stages. The power of the Kokugan comes from the inherent abilities it grants, and from how skillfully the user employs those abilities. The name Kokugan, meaning black eye, is simple and descriptive compared to names like Sharingan Copy Wheel Eye or Byakugan White Eye, which reference both appearance and function. The Kokugan's name focuses on its appearance rather than its abilities. This may be because the primary ability, Sukuna Hikona, has its own name and is treated as a technique used through the Kokugan rather than being inherent to the eye itself. However, the life force perception ability appears to be a direct function of the Kokugan rather than a separate named technique. The relationship between the Kokugan and other Otsutsuki Dojutsu is not fully explained. Different Otsutsuki clan members possess different Dojutsu, with some having Byakugan, some having Rinnegan, and some having unique eyes like Ishiki's Kokugan. It is unclear whether these different Dojutsu represent different evolutionary paths, different genetic variations within the Otsutsuki clan, or whether individual Otsutsuki can develop unique Dojutsu based on their particular abilities and nature. The diversity of Dojutsu among the Otsutsuki suggests that their clan has multiple bloodline traits rather than a single unified Dojutsu. The combination of Byakugan in one eye and Kokugan in the other gives Ishiki a level of versatility that characters with symmetrical Dojutsu do not possess. He can simultaneously use the Byakugan's perception abilities and the Kokugan's shrinking abilities, giving him access to two completely different power sets at once. This asymmetric Dojutsu configuration may be common among the Otsutsuki, as different clan members show different eye combinations. The advantage of this configuration is obvious. It provides multiple types of abilities without requiring the user to switch between different eye states. The Kokugan's abilities reflect Ishiki's particular fighting style and personality. The shrinking abilities of Sukuna Hikona allow for deceptive and unpredictable combat, where attacks come from unexpected directions and defenses make the user nearly impossible to hit. This matches Ishiki's approach of carefully planning his actions and using superior tactics and abilities to overwhelm opponents, rather than relying solely on raw power. The life force perception complements this by giving him perfect information about his opponent's conditions, allowing him to make informed tactical decisions. The transfer of the Kokugan to Kawaki through karma represents a significant shift in the distribution of Otsutsuki powers. Traditionally, Dojutsu are passed through bloodlines from parent to child or remain unique to specific individuals. The karma system allows Otsutsuki to transfer their complete genetic information, including their Dojutsu, to unrelated individuals. This means that Otsutsuki Dojutsu could theoretically appear in anyone who receives a karma seal, regardless of their original bloodline. This has implications for how Dojutsu might spread or appear in the ninja world's future. The Kokugan represents one of the more versatile combat-focused Dojutsu shown in the series. While the Rinnegan has broader reality-altering abilities, and the Rinne Sharingan can cast the infinite Tsukuyomi affecting the entire world, the Kokugan's Sukuna Hikona ability is specifically optimized for personal combat effectiveness. The ability to shrink oneself and objects provides offensive and defensive capabilities that are immediately applicable in any fight, making it perhaps the most practically useful Dojutsu for a warrior who engages in direct combat regularly. The microscopic size that Sukuna Hikona can achieve makes the user effectively immune to most forms of attack. At truly microscopic scales, the user is smaller than most projectiles, smaller than the particles that make up most techniques, and too small to be perceived or targeted by opponents. This near invulnerability while shrunken makes Sukuna Hikona one of the most powerful defensive abilities in the series. The only drawback is that the user presumably cannot attack effectively while shrunken to such extreme degrees, requiring them to return to a larger size to engage in offense. The Kokugan's dark appearance creates a visual contrast with the bright or pale colors of most other Dojutsu, where the Sharingan is bright red, the Byakugan is pale white, the Rinnegan is purple, and the Jogan is pale blue. The Kokugan is dark or black. This color scheme makes it visually distinctive and immediately identifiable. The darkness of the eye may symbolize the hidden and deceptive nature of its primary ability, where attacks and defenses remain hidden until they manifest. The black color could represent invisibility, concealment, and the unseen dangers that Sukuna Hikona creates. The legacy of the Kokugan is now tied to both Ishiki and Kawaki. While Ishiki was ultimately defeated, the abilities of the Kokugan live on through Kawaki, who inherited them via karma. How Kawaki chooses to use these abilities and what he accomplishes with the Kokugan's power will shape how this Dojutsu is remembered. Unlike the Sharingan or Byakugan, which have long histories and cultural significance tied to specific clans, the Kokugan's legacy is being written in the present through the actions of those who possess it. Before we move on, make sure to subscribe if you're enjoying this breakdown. Moving on, we have the Senrigan. The Senrigan is a unique dojutsu possessed by Ida, also known as Ada. Unlike naturally occurring dojutsu that develop through bloodline inheritance or awakening under specific conditions, the Senrigan was artificially created through scientific modification. Amato, a brilliant scientist who worked for the organization Kara, implanted DNA from Shibai Otsutsuki into Ida during her creation as a cyborg. Shibai Otsutsuki was an ancient member of the Otsutsuki clan who had achieved godhood by consuming countless chakra fruits from multiple planets over a long period. The DNA from this godlike being granted Ida abilities far beyond what normal ninja or even typical Otsutsuki possess, including the Senrigan. The name Senrigan means clairvoyant eye in Japanese, which directly describes its primary function. This dojutsu grants the user the ability to perceive events across vast distances without being physically present. The clairvoyant nature of the Senrigan sets it apart from other sensory dojutsu like the Byakugan, which requires the user to be relatively close to what they are observing. The Senrigan operates on a completely different scale, allowing observation of events anywhere in the world, regardless of physical distance or barriers. The appearance of the Senrigan is distinctive and visually striking. The eye features a bright blue iris that stands out prominently. The pupil glows with luminescence, giving the eye an otherworldly appearance that reflects its supernatural nature. Around the pupil is a dark crescent shape that creates a unique pattern not seen in other dojutsu. This combination of bright blue, glowing center, and dark crescent makes the Senrigan immediately recognizable. The brightness and glow of the eye suggest the divine origin of the power, as it comes from DNA of an Otsutsuki who ascended to godhood. The primary ability of the Senrigan is true clairvoyance on a global scale. Ida can see and hear any event occurring anywhere in the world as if she were watching through a camera positioned at that location. This surveillance ability has essentially no range limit within the planet. She can observe events in distant countries, in hidden locations, inside buildings, and in places she has never physically visited. The perception is not limited to a single viewpoint either. Ada can shift her attention to different locations and events at will, effectively giving her omniscient awareness of everything happening in the world at any given moment. The audio component of the Senrigan's clairvoyance is as important as the visual component. Ida can not only see what is happening, but can also hear conversations, sounds, and any audio information associated with the events she observes. This means she can eavesdrop on private conversations, hear secret plans being discussed, and gather intelligence that would be impossible to obtain through normal means. The combination of perfect visual and audio surveillance makes the Senrigan an intelligence-gathering tool of unprecedented power. No secret is truly safe from someone with the Senrigan, as they can simply observe any meeting, conversation, or event they wish to know about. The Senrigan's surveillance operates in real time. Ida sees and hears events as they are happening, not recordings or echoes of past events. This real-time aspect makes the Senrigan valuable for monitoring current situations, tracking people's movements, and gathering information about ongoing events. She can watch a battle as it unfolds, observe diplomatic negotiations as they happen, or track a target's location by simply focusing her attention on them. The immediacy of the information makes it actionable and current rather than historical. There appear to be some limitations on what the Senrigan can observe. The technique cannot see into the past beyond Ida's own lifetime. She can only observe events that have occurred since she was created and became able to use the Senrigan. This means she has no access to historical events that happened before her existence. However, everything that has occurred during her lifetime remains accessible to her observation. This effectively gives Ida a perfect memory of all events that have transpired in the world during the time she has been alive, as she can simply observe those moments again through her Senrigan. The Senrigan cannot observe events that occurred in locations or dimensions that are completely separate from the world where Ida exists. If something happens in a sealed dimension, a completely isolated space, or outside the boundaries of her perceptible reality, the Senrigan cannot reach it. This represents one of the few true blind spots in an otherwise nearly omniscient surveillance ability. However, within the normal physical world where most events take place, the Senrigan's coverage is essentially complete. The strategic and tactical value of the Senrigan is immeasurable. In terms of intelligence gathering, it makes Ida potentially the most valuable asset any organization could possess. She can provide real-time intelligence on enemy positions, observe secret facilities to learn their layouts and security measures, monitor communications to learn plans, and track individuals anywhere they go. Traditional methods of intelligence gathering like spies, reconnaissance missions, and intercepted communications all become obsolete when compared to the Senrigan's perfect surveillance. An organization with access to Ida's abilities has a complete information advantage over any opponent who does not know they are being watched. The psychological impact of the Senrigan's existence is significant. Anyone who knows about Ida's ability must operate with the assumption that they might be under observation at any moment. There is no way to know if Ida is currently watching and listening. This creates a situation where privacy effectively does not exist for anyone Ida chooses to observe. Private conversations might be monitored, secret plans might be known, and hidden actions might be witnessed. This awareness forces people to assume they have no privacy and changes how they must operate if they want to keep anything secret from Ida. The only way to potentially hide information from the Senrigan is to not speak about it, not write it down, and not take any observable action related to it. Information that exists only in someone's thoughts and never manifests in any way that can be seen or heard remains hidden from the Senrigan's surveillance. However, this is extremely limiting because most plans require communication, coordination, and action, all of which become observable once they move from pure thought into the physical world. This makes the Senrigan nearly impossible to circumvent through conventional means. Beyond the surveillance capabilities, the Senrigan is connected to another ability called omnipotence. In the manga, the Senrigan serves as the conduit through which omnipotence manifests. Omnipotence is a reality-altering ability that can rewrite memories on a global scale. This power allows the user to change what people remember about past events, effectively rewriting history in the minds of everyone on the planet. When omnipotence is activated through the Senrigan, it can alter the memories of every person in the world simultaneously, making them remember events differently than how they actually occurred. The omnipotence ability represents one of the most powerful reality manipulation techniques shown in the series. By rewriting memories on a global scale, it can change people's understanding of who did what, who is allied with whom, and what events transpired. This memory manipulation is so thorough that people genuinely believe the false memories are real. They have no awareness that their memories have been altered, and no ability to distinguish between true memories and implanted false ones. This makes omnipotence extraordinarily dangerous because it can reshape reality by reshaping how everyone perceives reality. The connection between the Senrigan and omnipotence suggests that the clairvoyant observation abilities and the memory manipulation abilities are linked. The same divine power that allows Ida to observe everything also grants the ability to manipulate everyone's perception of what they have observed. This pairing of abilities creates a complete control over information, both in terms of gathering it through surveillance and in terms of controlling what others believe through memory manipulation. Together, these abilities give the Senrigan user near total control over knowledge and perception. Ida herself did not intentionally use omnipotence initially. The ability activated in response to her desires in a specific situation, suggesting that omnipotence might be triggered by the user's emotions or wishes rather than through conscious activation like most jutsu. This makes omnipotence potentially unpredictable and dangerous, even to those who possess it, as it might activate based on subconscious desires without the user deliberately choosing to use it. The lack of conscious control over when omnipotence activates creates risk that it could alter reality in ways the user did not specifically intend. The activation of omnipotence that occurred in the story had massive consequences. The memories of everyone in the world were rewritten regarding specific individuals and their roles in recent events. People remembered events completely differently than how they actually happened, with different people being credited or blamed for actions. This demonstrated the incredible scope of omnipotence's effect. It did not just affect a small group or a single nation, but literally changed the memories of every person on the planet simultaneously. The only exceptions were a very small number of individuals who had specific protections or characteristics that made them immune to the memory manipulation. The immunity to omnipotence is extremely rare. The Otsutsuki clan members appear to be immune to the memory rewriting effects, presumably because their godlike nature protects them from the technique. Additionally, individuals who are blood relatives of Shibai Otsutsuki, or who possess his DNA, also appear to have some protection. This creates a situation where Ida herself and a few others retain true memories of what actually happened, while everyone else remembers the rewritten version of events. This division between those who know the truth and those who believe the false memories creates enormous complications and conflicts. The ethical implications of the Senrigan and omnipotence are profound. The ability to observe anyone at any time without their knowledge or consent represents a complete violation of privacy. The ability to rewrite memories on a global scale represents control over fundamental aspects of identity and reality. These powers raise questions about autonomy, consent, and the nature of truth. If someone can rewrite what everyone remembers, then in a practical sense, they can rewrite reality itself, at least from a social and psychological perspective. The actual physical events remain unchanged, but if everyone remembers things differently, the social reality has been altered. Ada's possession of these abilities makes her one of the most powerful individuals in the entire series, not because of direct combat power, but because of information control and reality manipulation. She does not need to fight opponents directly when she can observe all their plans and potentially alter how everyone perceives events. Her power operates on a level above physical combat, dealing with information, perception, and memory rather than with chakra techniques and physical force. This represents a different type of power than what most ninja possess. The creation of the Senrigan through scientific means rather than natural bloodline inheritance represents a significant development in how Dojutsu can be obtained. Amado's ability to grant Otsutsuki-level abilities to someone by implanting Shibai's DNA shows that the most advanced Dojutsu powers can potentially be distributed to anyone if the necessary biological material and scientific knowledge are available. This breaks the traditional pattern where Dojutsu were limited to specific bloodlines and could only be obtained through inheritance or transplantation of actual eyes. Now, abilities can be engineered into people at a genetic level. The source of the Senrigan's power from Shibai Otsutsuki is significant. Shibai achieved godhood through the traditional Otsutsuki method of consuming chakra fruits, but he did so on a scale that no other Otsutsuki had matched. By consuming fruits from countless planets over an extended period, Shibai accumulated power that transcended normal Otsutsuki limits and reached a divine level. The abilities he possessed as a result of this ascension, including the powers that became the Senrigan when his DNA was used to create Ida, represent the pinnacle of what is possible through the Otsutsuki's evolutionary path. The fact that Shibai's DNA could be obtained and used suggests that he died or abandoned his physical body at some point. The circumstances of how Amado acquired Shibai's DNA are not fully explained, but the existence of preserved biological material from this godlike being allowed Amado to extract and utilize it. This raises questions about what happened to Shibai and whether other remnants of his power might exist that could be similarly exploited. If one person could be given the Senrigan through Shibai's DNA, theoretically others could receive different abilities from the same source. The bright blue color of the Senrigan creates a visual connection to other special eyes like the Jogan, which also appears with blue coloring in some depictions. This may suggest that blue-colored dojutsu are associated with divine or transcendent abilities that go beyond normal bloodline limits. The brightness and glow of the Senrigan emphasize its supernatural and godlike nature, distinguishing it from more common dojutsu that have solid colors without internal luminescence. The visual design communicates that this eye represents power beyond what normal ninja can achieve. The dark crescent shape in the Senrigan's design is unique among dojutsu patterns. Most dojutsu either have tomoe, ripple patterns, or relatively uniform coloration. The crescent introduces an asymmetric element to the eye's appearance that creates visual interest and distinctiveness. The crescent might symbolize phases, cycles, or the passing of time, which could relate to the Senrigan's ability to observe events across time within Ada's lifespan. Alternatively, it might simply be a unique aesthetic element that distinguishes this artificial dojutsu from naturally occurring ones. The surveillance capabilities of the Senrigan effectively make Ida the most well-informed person in the world regarding current events. She can know anything she wants to know simply by choosing to observe it. This gives her complete knowledge of political situations, military movements, personal relationships, secret alliances, hidden betrayals, and anything else occurring in the world. The only limit is her attention span and her interest in observing particular events. She cannot observe everything simultaneously, but she can observe anything she chooses to focus on, which amounts to nearly the same thing in practical terms. The inability to observe the past beyond her own lifetime is a significant limitation for historical knowledge, but does not greatly diminish the Senrigan's usefulness for current events. Most intelligence gathering focuses on present circumstances and recent developments rather than distant history. For Ida's purposes in monitoring current situations and gathering actionable intelligence, the ability to see everything since her creation is more than sufficient. She has a complete record of recent years available to her observation, which covers all relevant contemporary events. The Senrigan does not appear to have combat applications in the direct sense. It does not grant enhanced physical abilities, does not allow the user to cast genjutsu, does not provide defensive capabilities, and does not enable offensive techniques. Its value is entirely in information and surveillance. However, the intelligence advantage provided by perfect surveillance is itself a form of power that can be decisive in conflicts. Knowing your enemy's plans, positions, and capabilities, while they know nothing about you, creates an overwhelming strategic advantage that can determine the outcome of conflicts before any fighting begins. The relationship between the Senrigan and Omnipotence creates a complete information control package. The Senrigan allows observation and gathering of all information, while Omnipotence allows manipulation of what information others possess through memory alteration. Together, these abilities give the user control over knowledge itself. They can know everything while controlling what others know. This represents perhaps the ultimate form of power in an information-based sense, surpassing even physical might or combat prowess in terms of long-term impact. The fact that Omnipotence activated based on Ida's desires suggests that the Senrigan might have other hidden capabilities that could manifest under certain conditions. If Omnipotence emerged from the Senrigan in response to emotional circumstances, there might be other reality-altering abilities connected to Shibai's DNA that have not yet appeared. This makes the full extent of the Senrigan's capabilities uncertain and potentially much greater than what has been observed so far. Ada herself might not fully understand the complete range of what she can do with this godlike power. The creation of cyborgs with Otsutsuki DNA abilities represents a new paradigm in the distribution of power in the ninja world. Previously, the strongest abilities were limited to those with special bloodlines, or those who could obtain them through methods like karma seals. Now, scientists like Amado can potentially grant godlike abilities to anyone by incorporating DNA from powerful Otsutsuki into their bodies. This democratizes access to the highest levels of power while also raising concerns about who has the authority to create such powerful beings and what purposes they might be used for. The Senrigan represents surveillance capabilities that exceed anything previously possible in the ninja world. While Sensory Ninja could detect chakra and certain Dojutsu could see at long distances, nothing approached the Senrigan's ability to observe literally anything happening anywhere in the world. This level of surveillance was previously impossible, and its introduction changes the nature of secrecy and privacy fundamentally. In a world where the Senrigan exists and someone is actively using it, the concept of a secret meeting or hidden activity becomes almost meaningless because there is no guarantee of not being observed. The legacy of the Senrigan will depend on how it is used and whether its abilities spread to others. If Ida remains the only person with the Senrigan, then its impact is limited to what she chooses to do with it. However, if Amado's methods for creating cyborgs with Shibai's DNA become known, or if others replicate his work, the Senrigan's abilities could appear in multiple individuals. A world where multiple people possess perfect surveillance and memory manipulation capabilities would be fundamentally different from the world that existed before these abilities emerged. The Senrigan represents not just a new dojutsu, but potentially a new era in how power and information function in the ninja world. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.